Why are you playing? Why are you playing that band?
Rage Against the Machine?
Yes.
Because I played Jerry is the race car driver. Well, I thought you were getting
Oh,
water or doing
you did
something.
not.
I did. And then the thing just shuffled and played that because I thought you would be back by now. So not
Well,
only
I'm
did you
here,
miss
and we're
Jerry as
late.
a race car driver, you also got to hear Rage Against the Machine.
That's my favorite part of the song.
Oh. My favorite part is you know that part?
Yeah, I know that part.
Good.
1, 2 minutes combined 1 time, up around a telephone pole.
Something like that. Doggle hunt. All right. I'm ready when you are. It's a good song.
Well, I don't think we're gonna get any better than we are right now. So let's get it on.
Get it on.
It must be quite apparent by this time to any thinking individual that the people of our country and people of other countries all over the world are coming to face a moment of grave decision. A time when we will choose the course of our future.
Oklahoma, Texas, New York, Philadelphia, around the world, it's gonna be a big nut bust.
The Millennial Media Offensive podcast is now live.
Today is August 4th, 2026. You're listening to MMO number 230, and from the great city and state of St. Louis, Missouri, I'm Dan Gehring.
And from America's South Coast, where he keeps increasing the pregnant pause to make me have to fill the gap even less, I'm John G. Dew.
The pregnant pause, you get the same amount of time. There's a drop in there when I say Dan Gehring. It's the same amount every time. I time the Dan Gehring.
Well, what I said didn't make any sense anyway.
Well, what an intro.
we were listening to Primus. What do you expect?
It's true. It is true. It's all about timing.
Okay, no more of that. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here for another week.
Same.
And there's stuff going on, and there's too much for one man or even two men to clip it all. So I feel behind the 8 ball as I usually do on Tuesdays.
That's what happens. I survived this weekend a 5-hour drive to Chicago in the pouring rain with 2 screaming babies in the back. And my reward was arriving in Chicago.
Well, that's no reward at all.
I know. No, we're staying at Lisa's parents' house, but I was white-knuckling up there, not having a good time. Drive back was uneventful. But yeah, I don't recommend this drive to Chicago. It did reaffirm my beliefs about certain demographics in cars. But outside of that, I had some pretty solid conversations with people about kind of what we've been talking about on the show. And I sold Elise's uncle on buying Suicide of the West by James Burnham, which I have completed.
Why didn't you just give it to him?
Because I have a Kindle, and he does not.
Oh, good man. Yes, Serbians that live in South Chicago are terrible drivers.
That's exactly the demographic I was speaking of.
Mm-hmm. They're always they fire their weapons into the air at weddings, and they're swapping goats for women. It's just out of control.
Get their hair grease all over the tracksuit.
Yes, and they're just they think they own both lanes, all 4 lanes.
Right, indeed. Okay. Did you do anything eventful?
Eventful?
Yeah.
I feel like I did, but doing this show is almost like a time warp where I forget anything that came before it and forget it after I'm finished. Let's see. Anything eventful.
You could just
Yeah,
say no.
there's definitely something. There was something in there. But I'm losing it. I don't have it. I don't remember. I'm thinking about Egypt and Iraq and democratic socialists, and I'm not thinking about what I've done.
You're just going through the titles of the clip folders right now.
Not even looking at them. I'm looking at these people in the chat room and what they're talking about, and you wouldn't believe it. You should join them.
That's right.
Where can people join them?
Chat.mmo.show is where you can go. But enough of this awkward bantering. Let's do some news.
What did you talked about driving? Why were the kids crying?
It was just...
I asked you. You didn't answer.
Yeah.
Did you try to introduce them to Primus at a year old?
No, I was listening to podcasts. Elise was in the back seat entertaining them, but I think because they started crawling around more, they're more cognizant of when they're strapped into their car seats for longer periods of time.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, they just get upset. They're like, I am in a cage. And I want to tell them, that feeling never goes away, but I think they're too young to internalize that lesson at this point.
Okay, well, very good. I understand that. The first time we put my daughter in a car seat, I was convinced 40 minutes into our drive that car seats were inhumane. And actually, she would be in better hands if I just held her in the seat. That's how unpleasant she found the car seat.
I can imagine.
She had me convinced.
Yeah, it really didn't help the drivers of Chicago and the kids crying in the rain. Really didn't help that in the back of my head of just, what if we just started killing people that cut you off? Wouldn't America be better? Wouldn't it heal?
Prove me wrong.
That's right. That's right. What's a windshield? A couple $100. Who cares?
Yeah, I had these oddly similarly shaped high velocity rocks hit my windshield. I need it replaced.
There you go.
Did they hit it from the inside? Well, yes, they did. How'd you know?
The back window was open. That's how, officer.
Yes, that's right.
So let's talk about something. I see you something that you got something. There's a big talk this week. Lots of news about the Spanish invasion of Suerta. Do you have?
There are several competing topics this week. Usually, you can identify which one is the focus of the week. And I know it's not segmented into weeks because we do our show once a week. Therefore, everyone talks about things. I know it's in flux, but usually I can identify what the topic du jour is. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Usually there's the dominating topic.
Right. And this week, I feel like there were at least two competing topics. Potentially three. I think really there were two. This is one of them. And I'm interested to hear your report on it. Now, you mentioned you had a pretty sizable segment for this Spanish invasion.
I do.
Okay. There's an important question that we need to ask and establish the answer to here before we get started. And if you can't answer it right now, that's fine. But, just think about it as we go. Should this be considered an African package?
Morocco is really a part of Africa that is not my idea of Africa. When I think of Africa, I think of Georgia the Jungle Africa. Your DRC.
So the Congo?
The Congo, yeah. I know it is technically.
When I think of Africa, I think of the most remote parts.
Right. I think of the raid forest. Arab Africa, it is Africa, but did you see the people coming across the border in Spain? They weren't even black.
Yes, I did.
They were Arab. Clearly more Arab than black.
Are you going by the paper bag test here? What's your criteria?
I feel like there is a difference between the black people of Africa and the Arabs of North Africa. I worked with.
You're right.
I worked.
There are. You're absolutely right. All kidding aside.
Yeah.
And by the way, the paper bag test is not something I just made up. That's a real thing. And if you want an American history lesson, you should check that out.
Yeah, I worked with a lady from Tunisia, and she looked like she could be from France.
I bet she could cook too.
I don't really know. All I know is she worked in HR, and I caught her ripping darts one time outside of the office, and she was really embarrassed.
Oh, yeah, she could cook.
Yeah. Anyways, Suelta. I see you have a clip. Is it just kind of a general rundown of what happened?
Yeah, I started clipping and didn't get to finish.
Okay.
So it can probably be disregarded.
All right. So I've got kind of just a general first rundown clip of the events that happened in Ceuta. And here we go.
Now, Spain is trying to defuse the migrant crisis in its tiny territory in North Africa. The Spanish government says an estimated 50,000 people crossed over from Morocco to Ceuta in a single day. Local officials say at least 34 people died, most by drowning, as crowds came across by land and sea on Thursday. Just take a look at these extraordinary images. I mean, Ceuta now juts out into the sea from Morocco and has long been a target for migrants trying to
hold
reach
on a second.
Europe.
Wait. Which one is it?
What?
Is it Ceuta or Ceuta? She said the word twice and said it differently each time. First, she said Ceuta.
Yeah. Then she said Suelta.
Yeah.
I think it's Suelta.
Is this I don't think this has enough momentum to be a Kiev switcheroo.
Serpent's saying Suelta. I think.
Yeah, I think it's Ceuta too.
Yeah.
I think it's always been Ceuta. So why would she say Ceuta?
Because she's a person that reads words off a teleprompter and calls herself a journalist.
Good enough for me.
That's my read. All right, here we go.
It's unclear what caused the sudden rush. Spain's Prime Minister suggesting it was fueled by a recent Spanish Supreme Court ruling on migrants arriving by sea. The surge is already deepening divisions over migration in Europe. The crowds, mostly made up of young men, celebrated as they entered Spanish territory. Take a listen to what one young man was saying.
Very happy to be here. It's been a very tough experience to go from the ocean. It was very tough. The police officers tried to stop us, but our will and our determination, we could came here.
There you go. like an athlete post event. It was our will and determination that allowed us to sneak into this country illegally.
Yes, that's great. That's a great analogy.
Oh, I love it.
CNN's Nada Bashir is joining us now live from London. And Nada, I mean, we've seen significant numbers of migrants cross over into Ceuta before, but nothing like this. 60,000 migrants, I believe, in just a matter of hours. What are you learning about the reasons for this surge that we've seen?
Well, it certainly was unprecedented, and you could see that in how overwhelmed Spain's border guards and officials were in responding to this current situation. Officials on Thursday calling for the Spanish government to declare a state of emergency, and the government itself deploying additional troops to Ceuta in order to support in that response effort. As you mentioned, with regards to the cause behind this surge of migrants attempting to cross the border, the figure at this stage is an estimate, but the government has put it now at around 50,000, they believe, crossing since Thursday. But as you mentioned, Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister, did give a statement just in the last few hours. He believes that human traffickers, smuggling rings have exploited and misunderstood a Supreme Court ruling, which was handed down earlier this month in Spain, which essentially prohibits authorities from immediately returning migrants who have crossed into Spain via a sea crossing without due process. Now, it is understood that potentially individuals who crossed yesterday and even today may have been misled, that this meant an automatic or immediate acceptance of status within Spain if indeed they do cross over by water. And the vast majority of those who did cross over yesterday are believed to have travelled by sea. And
so a couple interesting points there. We hear the supposed cause is stated by Pedro Sanchez as a Supreme Court ruling that was misinterpreted by the migrants or illegal immigrants from Morocco. But I would have everybody, if you are not already.
Let me ask you to look again at a map.
So Ceuta is, logically speaking, a part of Africa. You know? It should be part of Morocco, but alas, it's not.
1 point for African package.
1 point for African package. Okay. It should be effectively part of Africa. It's separate from mainland Spain, and it is attached to Morocco on the other side of the Strait of Gibraltar, of course, the Rock of Gibraltar. So it is interesting. I started reading, after I finished Suicide of the West, I started reading Prisoners of Geography, which is a good suggestion. And I like it in that you can read kind of a little bit about each region. You can read a chapter in probably about 20 minutes, and it's a good way to wind down at the end of the day before bed. But I was learning about Russia last night or the night before, I can't remember, and they were talking about how Stalin had put a bunch of, when they would take over a new territory, they would move in a bunch of people, like a bunch of ethnic Russians to that region to, I don't know, effectively solidify its claim over the land. And Stalin was pretty good at doing this. And it's one of the reasons why Transnistria, which is part of, what is it part of? Oh, no. Moldova. So there's like a little sliver of Moldova called Transnistria that's mostly ethnic Russians because of that move that they've done. Now, when I look at Ceuta, I haven't actually done this, but when I was looking at a map while that clip was playing, I have to assume that at one point Spain moved a bunch of people to Ceuta so they could have full control over the Strait of Gibraltar. Completely cut out Morocco from controlling it and make sure that their maritime ships could pass through in and out of the strait. It was a very long way to showing that, but basically Ceuta is not part of Spain. It is part of Spain, but it's detached from the mainland of Spain and more associated with Africa. So in that last clip, we heard that Pedro Sanchez says it was the Supreme Court ruling that was misunderstood. The kind of dissident right or Twitterverse, whatever, influcervatives have a different angle to take on it. And I think it's worth bringing up because it really highlights some of the points that come out of an interview that occurred this week. But this is Kim Iverson, and she's talking about who the real culprit behind the invasion of Ceuta could be.
Maybe you heard about this massive migration crisis into Spain. 50,000 people in the course of a day swarmed in. If this were truly a humanitarian crisis that was organic, these people would have been fleeing a war zone, like a natural disaster, something along those lines. But what we're seeing is specifically military-aged young men. So this was not families. You don't see women and children running across the border into Spain. We're seeing military-aged young men. We're seeing them trucked in by what looks like officials. So this obviously caused alarm as to who is organizing this. Why would there be an official in uniform allowing all of these people, basically busing them to the border and then having them get out and run across? A lot of questions here. So who was behind this? Why were they doing this? It looks like Israel and the Moroccans, the Israelis and the Moroccans worked together in order to flood these regions with migrants. If you remember, Spain has been very much a critic of Israel. Netanyahu at one point even says, look, if you threaten us, you're going to pay an immediate price. So people are pointing this out and saying, it looks like the Israelis might have been behind this insane migrant crisis that obviously looks manufactured. Here's Yair Netanyahu. This was in 2019, admitting to funding NGOs, calling to give away Ceuta and Melilla to Morocco. The New York Times actually said that they spoke to several Moroccans who said they were encouraged to cross into Ceuta by the Moroccan authorities. Moroccan authorities were telling them to go do it. Morocco has some beef with Spain for sure, but Morocco has more reasons to support Israel than it has beef with Spain. Morocco's trying to get something from Israel. What is that, you might ask? Well, Morocco's in the process of doing deals to try to get surveillance, to try to get their AI, to try to get their security, their defense. And so part of that deal could be Israel saying, well, here's what we want you to do if you want to stay in our good graces. Let's go and terrorize Spain for the day. So they were encouraged to go in. It was just for, a lot of them were doing it for kicks and giggles for fun. They're like, oh yeah, let's go into Spain. We're being told to go into Spain for the day. And then most of them, the vast majority of them, left Spain and went back into Morocco because it was just a joke. Well, joke's on the Israelis because it just makes them look even worse.
Who is this? Who is this?
That was Kim Iverson.
Well, she needs to do better.
I know.
The background music for one is awful. It's pixelated robot music. I mean, what are you even doing with that? Are you trying to convince us that this is deep research and you had to, I don't know, do some hacking to get this information? Did you hack the Israelis to get this information? I don't know what that is. But also, Morocco wants something from Israel. Okay, Kim, what is that?
She said,
obviously, it's surveillance and AI. What?
The point is weak, but it is compelling in that it led to a bunch of other discussions. So I understand that too. Israel planned this. Is the way that she presented it is a little bit ridiculous, and I agree with that.
Well, but to her credit, she is presenting it as many people on the internet are believing it. I would say one of the strongest narratives right now, whether in a jovial fashion or not, is that Israel contributed to this.
Right.
And I would warn people, as compelling as it may be, to say, here's the evidence, Israel is behind it. Whenever things happen and line up and are as clear as day, you may want to throw a little bit of skepticism in there and ask, why would someone want this deflected onto Israel? Because Israel doesn't care. They don't care if people think they helped migrants flood Spain. It doesn't hurt them or help them at all. So it's a harmless deflection. What it's a deflection from, I think, is the Moroccans putting pressure on Spain themselves, because Spain is working on their relationship with Tunisia.
Okay.
Tunisia and Morocco, not great friends. So Spain, and I didn't have I was going to wait for this, but I didn't realize you were going to jump to Israel so quickly. Let me see here. Do you have another clip about this Israel, or any thoughts about this Israel narrative?
Well,
because I want to gather what I was going to present, basically pushing back on this narrative that Israel did it to get back at Spain.
Well, there was an interesting discussion between Daryl Cooper and Tucker Carlson that happened, and it was a 2-hour interview. It was released, I think, last night. And what's interesting is they do talk about this from an angle of Israel being involved, but more importantly, they talk about the history of Spain and why Spain is such a threat to a lot of the things that we've been talking about. I brought up Jim Jatras and the Rainbow Fascism article he wrote in 1999 last week. And it talks about how this American concept, Western concept of no borders, one world government, that kind of thing is taken off, and why people like the Spanish people would be a target of this sort of movement. So I do want to present this in a way. It starts off with Cooper explaining kind of the modern Zionist ideology and how it has really taken over Judaism and Israel for its detriment. So here's Cooper explaining that. And then it goes into a much more important discussion of Spain and the history of Spain and what that means for the rest of the world and cultural identity. So it's a good segment. But here's Cooper explaining modern Zionist ideology.
Because I'll just speak for myself. If I felt that, and by the way, and I agree with you, I get why trauma persists through generations. I do. I'm sorry to sound like a liberal. I really do understand that. And I think it's real. And I think the trauma is real. Like awful things were done to the Jews in Europe. There's no doubt. But if somebody told me that my neighbors could rise up at any minute and kill me, I would hate my neighbors. I would hate any nation where that was true. Why wouldn't I?
I mean, really the only answer to why wouldn't I is Christianity.
Well, right.
So, but yeah, when that starts to happen again, like it affects the way that you interact with the people outside your in-group. And you see this again on small scales. You see it with individual people. The person at work who thinks everybody at the office is out to get them. Eventually, nobody at the office likes that person, and they kind of are out to get them because that's how they interact with everybody. Everybody hates us. Everybody wants us destroyed because we have this special truth or whatever the cult's thing is.
Jim Jones told his people that.
They all tell their people that, and it's because the people are being held together by something that is really inorganic. And for that to persist over time, you can organize a group according to two principles, right? One is that there's something inside the group, inside the people that pulls them together, or they can be packed in from the outside because external forces are preventing you from escaping. And it's one of the reasons that you see, for example, so many cults, organized crime elements as well. One of the first things that they'll do as part of an initiation is get you to do something that you can't take back. It does lead to in-group cohesion, but it leads to an in-group cohesion that makes conflict with external elements basically inevitable.
So how does this apply to our situation?
So he's talking about the Zionist ideology of everyone is out to get us. And so they're implying that in the Spain situation right now with Ceuta, they're implying that Israel had a helping hand in Spain, in the Spain invasion.
You mean Morocco had a helping hand?
Israel had a helping hand in the Moroccans invading Spain.
Okay, I see. They lent a hand.
Yep.
Okay, well, counterpoint here. This is from the Italian Institute for International Political Studies, and I'm going to read a paragraph here. And I'm sorry, I said Tunisia earlier. Tunisia is probably one of the African countries that I know the most history of, but the least amount of current events for. So I said Tunisia accidentally. It's Algeria. It's Spanish and Algerian relations. So this is from the ISPI, quote, "Normalization began with the appointment of a new Algerian ambassador to Spain in November 2023. Trade progressively recovered and diplomatic contacts resumed. Foreign Minister Jose Manuel Albarese's March 2026 visit to Algiers was decisive. Algeria announced the reactivation of the Treaty of Friendship. This did not follow a Spanish renunciation of its 2022 position. Madrid had instead emphasized international legality and relevant UN resolutions and clarified that it does not view autonomy as the only possible solution. Both governments concluded that subordinating every field of cooperation to Western Sahara was too costly." And they're talking about autonomy over Western Sahara because what degraded the Spanish-Algerian relations was Spain's recognition of Morocco's autonomy over Western Sahara, a part of Western Sahara. Continuing, "The crisis was overcome diplomatically, but its cause was not settled." Then, let's see, we saw, 10 days, that would be about July 23rd of this year, 10 days before the flood of migrants from Morocco being bussed to the Ceuta border by Moroccan authorities, Sanchez visited Algeria. Spain's prime minister.
Sure. Yeah, there could be quite a few catalysts. The main angle that the the alt-right, or I guess I don't even want to call them alt-right, whatever Tucker Carlson is these days, is that Spain came out and basically didn't support what Israel was doing in Gaza fervently, and Netanyahu and a bunch of other people had threatened Spain that they must pay for their comments that they made.
Don't you think this is thin enough reasoning to discredit, to give people enough bait to latch onto, but ultimately to be discrediting if you try to engage in serious political discussion and say Israel was behind the surge of migrants into Spain?
So sure, I mean, what you have presented is also compelling. And I'm not saying that Israel is indeed behind it. What I found interesting is that this conversation morphs into topics that we've been covering over the past 2 weeks.
Of course.
So I'm trying to keep it alive while you piss on the fire here.
Well, I think it's a classic example of Hasbara. I think it's using a naturally emerging geopolitical or a regional tension to present content that can discredit anyone who dies on that hill as a mechanism of Hasbara.
Aha. And so we have merged points here, because that is covered, not in this next clip necessarily, but it is mentioned that Israel is less focused on positive PR through Hasbara and more focused on negative PR towards Muslims through Hasbara. As of recently, they've shifted tactics. They don't care about friends anymore. They just care about us hating the Muslim team more than the Jew team, effectively. So we'll continue with this Tucker Carlson interview. This is the Spanish connection as championed by Israel.
All of which leads to what's happening in Spain. So Spain just had part of a longstanding, like the biggest wave of a longstanding invasion of like 50,000 people over the course of just hours from Morocco. And this, in the days following, it became really clear that this was not organic at all, that the Israeli government and the U.S. government, well, obviously knew this was happening, and basically both governments were using mass migration as a weapon against a government that they don't like for various reasons, mostly because it's anti-Israel. And people were shocked to discover this. Were you shocked to discover that?
Again, kinda. I shouldn't be at this point, but yeah, kinda. I still am always shocked. I guess it's a good thing. I always look at it as a good thing. The fact that I'm still capable of being shocked.
It's just exactly the opposite of what we've been told. It's a pretty clear story that they've been telling. Propagandists in this country have been telling for the last, 10 years at least, really since 9/11, that we have to support Israel because they are the bulwark against the defense against what we just saw happen in Spain. Like, we're going to get overtaken by the Muslims unless we support Israel. And here you have Israel supporting an invasion of a Western European country by Muslims, which I think has been, sort of ongoing for generations now. Like, they've been doing this for a long time. But most Americans kind of think we're on the same side. Like, we don't want to be invaded by the Muslims, and the Europeans don't, and the Israelis are our ally in that, but they're not.
Christian civilization and Islamic civilization are different things with their own geographic spheres, and it's definitely a situation, I think, where strong fences make for good neighbors kind of thing, right? We should have our own spheres. I think it would be deleterious for any European Christian country to acquire a Muslim population past a certain threshold where it becomes a culturally separate, thing. That's something that's not necessarily specific to Christianity and Islam. Is just two different groups. But one of the saddest things and grossest things that really has come out of just the last couple of years of the recent things going on since Gaza. I mean, it's, when you look back on it, it's been going back, it's gone back further than that, but it's really intensified, where as Israel has lost support, they have really, really You know, they've lessened the propaganda that comes from the direction of sort of justifying and explaining and building up support for what they're doing, and directed it instead toward just building up more and more hatred of Muslims and Islam in general. I mean, you see this from people like Laura Loomer and other types who their whole thing is just, we need to get Christians to hate Muslims, because if they do that, then their enemies are our enemies, and we don't have to think past that. And that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I never thought I would be the defender of Muslims. It never occurred to me. Since I'm not a Muslim and I'm not going to become a Muslim.
I had to keep the Tucker laugh there. But that's the point. That's the point you kind of just made at the end before we started playing the clip. Did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
So hang in there, okay? Because
I'm hanging.
I mean, it's not.
I'm doing my best possum over here.
There's not. You know, the de facto Israel did this is a little bit much. I get that, but the real thing is why do people want to destroy countries like Spain or just European countries in general? And I think we start to change over from what we're talking about with the Jews caused the invasion of Moroccans into Spain, which you don't believe, which is fine. And we start to get into the same thing that we've been talking about, which is national kind of identity. And here we go with this clip 3.
So can I just ask you about Spain? So the internet is aflame with the realization that the President Sanchez who runs Spain is, obviously aligned with this replacement project. However, this specific example of invasion was really the result of larger forces acting on Spain, including the U.S. and especially Israel, and Israeli figures, including the prime minister and his son, are basically saying, this is what you get. We're going to punish you with Muslims because you don't approve of the Gaza genocide.
Can we hold on for a second?
Spain is
sure.
What does he ever present his evidence for the U.S. being involved in this?
There was something along the lines of we sided with Morocco. So there's have you ever heard of the Suez Canal or the Suez Crisis?
Yes.
So the Suez Crisis, where we sided with the Egyptians over England and France post World War II in the 1950s.
Yeah.
It's just kind of interesting how we pick kind of the sides of countries that we're seemingly not aligned with over our stated allies sometimes. But no, he doesn't ever present the exact evidence that links the U.S. with it. I think he's part of the mind that Israel controls the U.S., and so the U.S. is on board with this as well. But I did see something along those lines.
The thinking is the U.S. is complacent vis-a-vis Israel.
Yes.
Well, not complacent, but basically, that's not exactly the word, but you get what I'm saying. The U.S. is involved vis-a-vis Israel.
Right. So we'll let it play again.
Spain itself, I was thinking this morning, has been this kind of battleground. Hundreds and hundreds of years, Spain has been a place where larger battles are fought. Have you noticed this?
Absolutely. And I would say that even as the Spanish Empire declined over the years and it became something of a backwater as the rest of Europe developed industrially, the Spanish were one of the people, and to this day remain. There's several peoples down along on the northern side of the Mediterranean, actually, who are still this way, who are living historically in the sense that we were talking about earlier, where they still know themselves as Spaniards. And they still have even if they're atheists and they don't like the Catholic Church or something like that, they still have a sense of continuity with their history, that people who have had conflicts with other people who are living historically, who have had conflicts with them over the years, they remember that, and they know that the other side remembers it too. And so it has been a battleground, because there's no reason, once a people stops living that way and it just becomes a atomized Blade Runner society or something, there's no reason to fight with those people anymore. Who are you fighting with? You might have to put down a rebellion of some kind.
Right.
People will just, get really antsy or upset, but you don't have to actually have conflicts with those people, because what people are you really even talking about? And Spain is, has not lost that to a great degree.
So I think there's a distinction here where Tucker Carlson is clearly trying to beat down your throat. The Jews are doing this angle, and Daryl Cooper is more so talking about what the effects of this are having. So he mentions living historically in that clip, and it'll be defined a little bit later. You can probably imagine or already guess what the definition of living historically is, but having a connection to your past, having a state and a stake in your country where you live, having an identity in a people. And he mentions the Blade Runner kind of atomized society of they no longer become a threat. And this brings me back to Mosca, the Italian philosopher Mosca, who stated an organized minority will always rule over a disorganized majority. And so the impacts of something like an invasion into Spain would lead to what we've seen all across Europe is a loss of kind of cultural identity, a loss of kind of a people,
But only a gradual migration would do that. Shock migration.
You get crispy.
Oh. When I come back, we'll need to see where you were, because I interrupted you. To make it flow, you'll probably have to repeat the last few before I interrupted you. Still looks like I'm crispy.
You are crispy, still.
Oh. Okay. I'm going to jiggle the cords.
Jiggle them. Would lead to what we've seen all across Europe is a loss of kind of cultural identity, a loss of kind of a people, Boop-a-doo.
Hey, yep.
Hey, it's better.
Okay, I identified which cord it is, so I will get it fixed.
Good. That is good. Let me generate a new track here. Add new stereo track. Okay. Here's my lead-in, and you can interrupt me. Loss of kind of a people, Do you want me to back it up more?
Am I supposed to do something here?
You're supposed to interrupt me with your conjecture point.
I didn't follow. Instead of interrupting you, I'm going to let you continue your thought. That'll be the easiest way to stitch it together.
Impacts of something like an invasion into Spain would lead to what we've seen all across Europe is a loss of kind of cultural identity, a loss of kind of a people, And once you remove that, once you remove the sense of a country, you don't have a country anymore. It just becomes another landmass of random people. And that's where you can really take advantage of those people, where the elites can take advantage of those people that no longer have a shared cultural identity, anything that's recognizable to a culture. It's just a homogenous blob of humanity.
Don't you think that has to occur with a gradual migration and not a shock migration, though? Or has it occurred to the point that a shock migration is the next step?
I think where you and I are is I'm less concerned about this exact just flooding of the migrants into Spain, and just more concerned with the general concept of what is happening and the conversation as it shifts. So yeah, I don't think this 60,000 Moroccans into Spain is going to be the catalyst, that the straw that breaks the camel's back and turns Spain into just another North African country. But I think that there is an identifiable trend that has been happening to Europe, much due to the leadership of Europe and the West in general, due to the ideology.
That's absolutely right. That is a thing that has been happening. What I'm afraid of is that if you say, and I don't know, there can be multiple causes, but if the focus of the narrative becomes this is Jewish conspiracy, to be frank, then you lose the aspect of the European leaders being responsible for this. Because this doesn't happen without their consent.
Right. It's multiple facets, and just the Jews are just the catch-all group for the. I'll be honest. The Tucker Carlson's, the who's the black girl? I forget her name. Candace Owens of the world. They're lazy. Everything's the Jews. It's super easy. Look, everything fits into my perfect analysis here. So that's why they do it.
Yeah.
But this conversation is leading to something that's much more interesting, I say. And I think Daryl Cooper was like, kind of go, yeah, the Jews. But he's actually talking about his cultural decline and cultural elimination, while Tucker Carlson is trying to fit it into his Jew package.
Yeah, significantly smaller than an African package.
Very much so.
Well, I think the way I see this is you have people online who are not tapped into these discussions. They don't see it. They're stoked on college football getting going again with no other concern. You know, that's crazy. Did you see the game kind of guy? They see these videos of 60,000 people flooding, quote unquote, Spain. And if it shocks them, and they start looking for more of that content, they immediately see, well, this thing that happened in northern Africa to Spain was the Jews. And then they say, well, that doesn't make much sense, and they turn off again. I think it's a diluting factor where things like this, no matter the cause, could be a consciousness moment where people who don't, like I said, they don't see this, they don't know about it. Yeah, I've heard about some people in Europe who got stabbed, but what are you going to do? This could be a moment where they say, wow, that actually could be a problem. And they start to get a little more engaged. They're turned off or diverted.
Why would they be diverted
because of
these
competing narrative?
By the Jews narrative.
Because it's not a winning narrative. People don't latch on to it was the Jews.
But what if, so hear me out, very meta here. What if these counterpoints of it being the Jews is in itself the Jewish strategy to turn people off and say that's ridiculous?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think you're right.
We're
that's
three
the
layers.
Hasbara I was identifying.
So is that not the Jews then? You know what I'm saying?
Here we have a classic example of the Jew circle.
Right. You could get yourself back into it any way, shape, or form with that logic. But no,
this is, and I want people out there who are maybe wincing at this to realize that this isn't an attempt by us to shove an issue into a Jew-shaped box.
No.
They are actually active in world events, the same way that America is. And to talk about geopolitics is to talk about the state of Israel. But at the same time, it's so easy to fall into this box of blaming them for everything instead of just analyzing their impact or their how something affects them. And I think, to your point, they've leaned into that.
Yeah.
Where sometimes it's just they're the scapegoat, and that's it. And their leaders and their leaders' children play into this scapegoatism.
Yeah, it's intellectually lazy to blame the Jews for everything.
Well, it's also the Marvel filmification. You know, oh, that's the bad guy, and he's responsible for everything.
And to Daryl Cooper's point earlier, he talks about this ideology of Zionism And it's a 2-hour interview, and it's a pretty good interview, but he talks about, to the detriment of Judaism and Israel, Zionism has really kind of encapsulated, that ideology has encapsulated. He compares it to a cult in that, they believe everyone is out to get them. And the guy at work that believes everyone is out to get them, and then eventually they do because everyone gets sick of the guy that thinks everyone's out to get them. So it's like, in and of itself, he explains the situation, and I don't think it's like anti-Semitic what he's saying. He's just kind of describing how he sees it. But the whole...
But I think, I mean, he's not here for me to disagree with, but he even says you have two ways of motivation. You can be motivated by some internal factor that everyone shares, or you can be motivated by an external factor that your people face. I think the Jews are much more motivated, the Jewish people, I should say, are much more motivated by shared internal similarities. They are a super proud people, and that's good that they're a proud people. It's noble and it's admirable, and that's what motivates them to be what they are and to do what they do.
I disagree with that. I think they're much more motivated by people hating them.
See, I don't. We're on opposite ends of that one.
All right. Well, it's not even the point of this, and that's why I'm so frustrated, because we keep talking about the Jewish people. And
no, you don't seem frustrated at all.
I'm just talking. I'm talking about the actual points that are being made outside of Judaism here. So here's the sense of culture, and they go into a little bit detail of the Spanish Civil War. And it's interesting. And here they're not really talking about Jewish people at all, but cultural factions.
European countries that are still insisting on holding on to that sense of who they are, whether it's Spain, it's Russia, whether it's Hungary. These are all the targets of the Western system. I mean, of the sort of American-led, whatever you want to call it, the global American empire. Those are the targets.
Globo homo, yeah. But why is that?
Globo homo, rainbow fascism.
I mean,
because there's a rational explanation which you offered before, which is the lesson of the Second World War was when European peoples have a sense of themselves, they're a threat to others. Okay, so you have to break that down. You can't have Europeans with self-respect because they're a threat. Okay, but there's also, it feels like there's a deeper thing going on. Like there's a spiritual factor here that maybe.
I mean, it's hard to get around that feeling, right? When you look at the history and you see the Spanish Civil War, for example.
Yes. What was that?
Trying to help people understand how absolutely shocking what was happening over there was to...
Can you just give us a quick, without taking an hour, but what's your summary of it? For people who aren't, the Spanish Civil War, so it's 35 to 39, something like that?
Mid-30s, yeah. And, there was a very, very, very... The thing that it is sort of most notorious for is the anti-Christian, just absolute zealotry of the Republican and later communist side that came into it. And it's something that, when the Bolsheviks took over in Russia, one of the first things they did, this was 1920, I think, so very, very early on, they built a statue to Judas Iscariot in Moscow.
What?
Yeah. And this is at the same time they're burning down churches, massacring. And it's the same reason probably that people don't know about it. A lot of what happened in Spain in the 1930s. I mean, you're talking about, something that it had the character of what you normally see in history from slave revolts, like in Haiti, for example, where there is just, a conflict driven by abject resentment and hatred for the people, so that they were not just raping nuns, they were not just massacring priests, they were not just using churches as latrines and pornography theaters. All of those things were happening. They were digging up the graves of people who had died years before, centuries before, and desecrating their corpses. These are the kinds of things that were happening. When you see something like that, look, Israelis don't like Palestinians. They're doing a lot of really bad things down there. They're not doing that. It's not quite to that level.
So that's fair.
And so when you do see something like that happening, I mean, I think it's very hard, especially for people of our persuasion, not to see a spiritual element in there.
So this clip is interesting, and I looked it up. It's called The Red Terror or El Terror Rojo. And you can look it up on Wikipedia. It is true. In the early 30s, when the Republicans, which is going to be a little bit of a misnomer for people that think in standard U.S. Republican Democrat terms, but they're effectively communists and socialists that took over Spain in the early 1930s. Instantly, they started to burn down churches and kill priests and pretty much try to rid Spain of the Catholic Church. And there's actually a decree to remove the church from Spain. And part of that is interesting because an aspect of communism or far leftist belief is that we must constantly be moving forward with progress and remove the cultural divisions and ties to the past that we have within our culture. And so that's what I think the aspect of destroying the church in Spain is presented. And when you destroy the traditions and the cultures of a people, you can then create them into this kind of mindless, homogenous group of people like we saw that was attempted in the Soviet Union. And so I thought it was really interesting that he brought in that Spanish Civil War angle, because I've been actually reading about the Spanish Civil War quite a bit lately, and I don't want to say it's a shot for shot as to what's happening in America, but you can see the division and the already lack of kind of shared culture that's happening in America, to the point where a Spanish Civil War type scenario, you could potentially learn a lot from what happened during the Spanish Civil War and prepare yourself for what might happen in the United States, or at least help prepare and prevent what happened in the Spanish Civil War from happening in the United States.
Regarding culture, did you see how many people watched the Super Bowl last year?
I didn't.
A lot.
Okay.
That's I don't think we're in a cultural split as far as popular culture goes. We're in a an ethical split where some believe this is right, some believe this is right. But back to the historical point that I want to make more than I want to make the cultural split argument. Isn't any form of democracy, whether it be republicanism, democracy, or any kind of representative government, isn't that left of a monarchy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's too much of a misnomer to say that the Republicans in Spain
I was just saying,
if
you wouldn't associate leftist communism and socialists with the Republican Party in the United States. And so that's what I meant by it being a misnomer.
No, but imagine by some mean an all-powerful monarch comes to power tomorrow in the U.S., you would have an alliance of the same people that are being paraded around on Fox News as Democrat Socialists of America and your establishment Republicans fighting that monarchy.
Sure.
So not as far removed as we might think.
Right. But the tract that the new republic that replaced the monarchy in Spain took was all traditions go out the window. We're going after the most sacred one first, the church. Something like 5,000 priests were killed.
Yeah.
3,000 nuns. Nuns were buried, had died and were buried, were dug up and desecrated. They burnt down churches. They did horrible things. So just
because they were impediments to democracy.
They were impediments to total control over a people, because the people still had some sense of their past and some relationship to their past. And this last clip that I have from the interview, I think really ties it together, is, bringing out the meaning of tradition and living historically, which is, I think, something that we've been trying to put our finger on with what is an American. What is our legacy that we come from, and how can we continue to advance that and pass it on to our children? So I'll play this clip.
I think there's a lot of people out there who see those comments from Israeli government officials and from Netanyahu's son and so forth, and think that their problem is with the Spanish government because the Spanish government has a problem with what's going on in Gaza. I don't think that's really what it is. I think that the problem is with Spain and with the Spanish people themselves, because they're seen as sort of a, look, as long as there's one group of people left who are still living historically, there's hope for the rest of us. And Spain is one of those bastions. It's one of those places. And I mean, just I think in the last couple of years, they just completed that cathedral in Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia. But I mean, the fact that that thing took 120 years or something to build, and they just finished it. And at no point, over the last 120 years, with everything that's happened, all of the social changes, the Civil War, the world wars, everything that's happened, that project was never abandoned, and they finished it. That's a people who's living historically. Those are the people who started that, the people who worked on it 50 years after they started it. They did not see it completed. They never attended a service in there. That's what living historically means. Planting trees under whose shade you'll never sit, right?
Exactly.
And so that's a people who's still doing that, at least in remnant. And as long as that's there, it's going to be targeted. And
but how interesting, targeted not just by, political factions within Spain that don't like it, though that's happening, but by the world. So the Spanish Civil War breaks out. They rape nuns, murder priests, dig up the bodies of long dead Christians and desecrate them. And the entire intelligentsia in the West joins them. The Abraham Lincoln Brigade forms. It's like all guys from Brooklyn. What? What is that?
When you get to a place where nobody else in the world is living historically, when the entire world is just a mishmash of atomized people, and you have a couple groups that are still living intergenerationally like that, those groups are going to rule the world. It's going to be their world. They're going to be living among a bunch of human beasts. And I mean that almost literally in the sense that when your time horizon has shrunk down to your next meal or even the end of your own lifetime, you're living like an animal lives. You're not living like a human being. And so you're going to be living in a sea of human beasts as real people still living historically, and you'll rule the world. And when there are other peoples out there who are also living that way, you're not going to be able to fool them into thinking that that's not what you're trying to do. They're going to recognize other people who are living historically, and they're going to recognize you as, it doesn't even have to be as allies or enemies, but just as people who are doing that. And then once that happens, it becomes, much more difficult to pull the wool over their eyes. And so the Spanish are a people who still have a remnant to their population and something deeply embedded in their culture that allows them to see things that we here in America, for example, where almost nobody is living historically, in the sense that we've been talking about, is even really, we just don't have the conceptual horizon that encompasses
that last point that he makes, I think is interesting about, are you living for the end of the day or the end of your life, or are you living as a part of a culture that's going to continue and grow, and are you contributing to that culture? And I think that's almost the question that we have been asking over the past couple of weeks on the show, of what is an American? What does that mean to be an American? What is our culture?
Well, let me ask you a question that's tangent, at least. It may be further than tangent, but it's a question I want to pick your brain on. Do you think the degradation, let me put it this way. Do you think the atomization of a people is purposeful, or just the side effect of the conveniences of industry? Or does it matter?
Well, like we've been saying, two things can be true at once. I think that it is perhaps it's a convenient side effect of industrialization, but by and far, what it does is it creates a less cohesive population, thus an easier population to rule over. It creates the disorganized majority of people that don't even know what's up and what's down, or even care. And I don't know if that was the grand scheme all the way, or if it is even the grand scheme still, but it is what's happening. And it's one of the reasons why it now becomes easier for organized people to make moves on countries or in governments and seize the means of control, if you will. Like, I know you were everyone's kind of yucking it up about the DSA, but I take those psychopaths seriously. I view them as political enemies, Americans, because I see, you could argue it's a slippery slope, but I see the direction that they want to send this country, and they're organized.
Yeah, but okay, so let's talk about DSA. Do they have enough political power to even matter, or are they just being bandied about as a boogeyman to motivate voters?
No, there's absolutely that as well. So it's happening on the right, but it doesn't make them any less of a threat. These Zohan Mondami, he's going to release these 30% grocery stores, and they're going to be awesome for a time period, for a time being. They're going to be great. People are going to say, these are awesome, these are amazing, and it could just be long enough for more DSA members to get elected in more cities. Yeah, that's how it starts. It started with pretty much Marxists in the university, and then the Marxists graduated from the university, and then they started joining city councils and city boards. Before you knew it, every single city in this country was a blue city. And then it expands out from the cities.
I'm going to join you here and take it a step further. I think Fox News should be excoriated for having these people on, because they are promising things to the American people that the American people don't know the effects of. And it's a moral hazard of democracy. And Fox News, the way some people can't see until the end of the paycheck or the end of the day, Fox News can't see until the end of the ad cycle or the end of the election cycle. So they don't care about the moral hazard of marching these people around as a sort of human circus and saying, hey, look at these wackos.
Right.
And you better go out and vote. Now, who cares what happens after we popularize their message? They should be absolutely excoriated for having these people on their network.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Right, Fox News has been long time just kind of a meme. Let's laugh at these. I mean, every single night they've got a comedy show. Their ending show at the night. I was at Elisa's aunt and uncle's house. We're watching Jimmy Fallon, right? He put on Fox News. It is a Saturday Night Live show that Fox News puts on with a comedian, and that's pretty much the message of the American. These DSA people are laughable, but these DSA people have been infiltrating every level of government for the past 50 years. Maybe not them specifically, but this ideology has been, and so it's
the
not
predecessors.
Exactly, it's not a laughing matter. I know they all look like freaks and geeks, but guess what? They're winning in places now. And yeah, the 30% grocery store is great on paper and great for the time being until it has lasting ramifications on the economy for other grocery store providers. And then every grocery store is a government-run grocery store. It's just insane.
It's a contagion.
Yeah.
Okay. We were in Africa, Spain.
Right.
Are you through with Spanish clips? African Spanish clips?
I did have a couple.
Should we say the Moors?
The Moors. Yeah. So here's what's kind of interesting about it. I have some Spanish protest clips of Spanish people organizing where they're calling the president an hijo de puta. I'll let the Spanish speakers out there translate that for you, which is kind of fun. They're coming out and getting all riled up in Ceuta, the Spanish locals. But I also have the secondary clip, and it might sound counterintuitive to what we've been talking about, but I don't think it actually is. You just always have to think about the the who benefits and who's on whose team. So this is a clip that came out, and it's about the EU calling for united action on border protection.
As most of the estimated 60,000 migrants who stormed into Ceuta last week returned to Morocco, the EU's chief commended the Spanish Prime Minister on the swift handling of the crisis. In a letter to Pedro Sanchez on Monday, Ursula von der Leyen called on the EU to take united action on border security.
From this incident, it is clear that we must do more to further strengthen our borders at critical points. The protection of all our external borders is a shared European responsibility.
The crisis in the tiny Spanish enclave sparked political tensions between Spain and other EU members. Italy spearheaded criticism at what they said was Madrid's soft immigration policy and called for it to be suspended from the Schengen zone, even though it's not legally possible for an EU member to halt another's participation in the border-free area. The Spanish foreign minister didn't mince his words.
Vamos a los hechos. Vamos.
All right. So, yeah, basically, Maloney and the AFD are using it to say, look at what the socialists in Spain did, which Pedro Sanchez is a socialist. But Ursula von der Leyen calls for, a united front on protecting the border. Now, the listener might go, now, Dan and John, weren't you just telling me that the European leaders are the ones that are mostly responsible for this immigration debacle in Europe? Why would somebody like Ursula von der Leyen be concerned about protecting Europe's borders? To which I'll raise the problem of global warming. Now, why is global warming a huge issue for globalists?
I mean, my gut reaction is because it's a great racket.
It is a great racket, but it also can't be solved by a single nation alone.
Of course.
The approach must be
collective action.
Collective and unified. Now, when it comes to securing Europe's border, the Europeans need a unified solution to prevent this illegal migration. Ursula von der Leyen is in team, let us federalize Europe. I want to expand my kingdom so I have more control over all of Europe. At which point, I can continue to let in or not let in whoever I want. But it's interesting because, it seems like a counterintuitive point for Ursula to be concerned about the border while simultaneously flooding Europe with a bunch of migrants. But I think if you go a step further, you can see it. So I think that this is another point for Team European federalization. I think they're slow walking into that reality. And I think it's these kind of issues that they're going to use to spur that case forward. Monetary policy, border protection, and Russia. Those are the three big boogeymen. And
this, to me, is a true example of unification under external force.
Right. But what's interesting is in that segment we listened to with Carl Tuckerson and Daryl Cooper. Carl Tuckerson. Did I just say
Carl Tuckerson? Did you say that unironically?
Yeah, I didn't mean to. What is it? I said
you did mean to.
Did I say Carl?
Didn't?
I said
Carl Tuckerson. You said Carl Tuckerson.
That's my bad. Long words. But in there, they're talking about Russia, Hungary, Spain, people with like a strong national sense of identity, and how those are the these countries that are considered bad boys. Spain in this instance, but we talked about Orban and Hungary and how they resisted all the pride stuff and they wanted to remain with their Hungarian culture, and they're a bad guy. And then Russia, obviously very proud of its culture. The invasion of Ukraine was justified by Russia to secure Russian people that had been moved into that western edge of Ukraine. And then also Transnistria comes up in that conversation naturally. But you have this now idea that this globalist system, this rainbow fascism that is hell-bent on making every country a homogenous blob of humanity, now attacks these proud nationalist, proud cultural countries of like Hungary and Russia. I just think that's kind of interesting.
There is no coexistence.
No, you either are in the plan or you're the enemy. There will be no other option. And so that's where I think is where Tucker Carlson did a disservice to Daryl Cooper, because Daryl Cooper is clearly more concerned with that bigger picture, and Tucker Carlson was basically like, but the Jews, the entire time. And so the only reason I brought the Kim Iverson clip was to give some context as to what Tucker Carlson was trying to imply that entire time with Daryl Cooper. So I also didn't think the Jew angle was very good, but I thought the discussion that was had between Cooper and Carlson was quite interesting in the end, because it ties so well into our conversations.
Yeah, I think we discuss it better than they did, though.
Probably. I just like the history of Spain and the Spanish Civil War. If you guys haven't learned about it, at least read the Wikipedia article, and don't just read from when the war started. Read the period of 5 to 10 years prior to the start of the war, because it is wild. But that concludes my Spain and Africa clips.
Okay. Well, I have some seemingly at first unrelated clips, but I want to go to the oil and gas folder.
Okay.
And the first one in there is the Mike Wirth Fox Business clip.
Welcome back. A blowout quarter for Chevron with record earnings, record U.S. production, faster than expected integration with Hess, and a new deal with Microsoft to power up a data center in Texas. Joining me now is the chairman and CEO of Chevron, Mike Wirth. Mike, great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Maria. It's good to be with you.
Well, it was an incredible quarter. Net earnings at $12.1 billion. That was more than $6 a share. The company's highest quarterly profit in at least 6 years on revenue of $70.1 billion, up 56% from a year ago. Can you give us the main takeaways of the quarter and what we should understand best about what took place in the last 3 months?
The story of the quarter is one of consistent execution, strong production, and record U.S. refinery throughput. We had assets around the world that ran at or near full capacity. We set a production record in the U.S. at nearly 2.1 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. We had record refinery throughput with runs greater than 1 million barrels a day, an all-time high here in the U.S., and several refineries set all-time records. All of that critically important at a time when the world energy system has been stressed and the need for supplies to markets and customers has never been higher. I'm really proud of our people in the quarter they delivered.
All right. Good quarter.
Okay. Good quarter. Good quarter, Mike. Good job. We might get you that Christmas bonus this year. So let's continue with an explanation of the company's growth.
Yeah, congratulations. And you've been investing in this period. You know, one of the highlights, obviously, was much higher oil prices. And, Mike, that's because of this war in Iran. And I want to get your take on that, because the last time we spoke, there was serious worries about security, about ships transporting through the Strait of Hormuz. What can you tell us as this war has escalated once again?
Well, I'll start with your comment about growth. Our production was up 20% year on year, 5% just since the first quarter to the second quarter. So we have been investing to grow production and bring energy to the market. The issues associated with the conflict in the Strait continue, and there are new developments each and every day. We now see not only the Strait of Hormuz, but the Red Sea and the Black Sea have risks and uncertainties. So some of the challenges have expanded. And the risks to supply are very real. we've seen demand in the world remain pretty strong, and China is perhaps the unexpected part of the story in that they've been able to reduce their crude purchases, which has taken a little bit of the pressure off the demand side of the equation as supply has had these challenges and these risks. And so inventories have been drawn down around the world, whether it's strategic stocks or commercial stocks, and the situation remains somewhat fragile and uncertain.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we've been draining the strategic oil reserves.
We sure have. We sure have. China, to mention our theory of what the potential strategy could be with Iran of squeezing China through its oil supply. He says China has reduced its demand, which I think they had to, which means, we don't get very good economic data out of China. I suspect things are not hunky-dory in China at the moment, and people are not very pleased. They can't do much about it, which is why you don't hear much. But I would wager that things in China are tight, to say the least, at the moment. But I want to continue this. We're talking about, the Red Sea. There was a drone strike on a ship, an LNG regasification carrier in Egyptian territory. I don't think it was actually in the Suez Canal, but I think it was going to or had just transited the Suez Canal. And I think the world at large is lucky that the drone didn't penetrate that LNG hold, because that would have been quite the show and would have gotten quite the attention and may have shut down the Suez Canal. So you have these attacks in the Red Sea. The Houthis are a looming threat, and he even mentions the Black Sea, where Ukraine just struck an Iranian ship, bringing weapons nonetheless, but still struck a ship in the Black Sea, and have been striking ships, probably Dark Fleet ships as well in the Black Sea. So what is to be done? This is all presenting a lot of risk. So let's talk about that risk and maybe what is to be done about that risk from Chevron's CEO on Fox News for the world to hear if they're listening.
Well, has the Iran conflict permanently changed how you view geopolitical risk and energy security at this point, Mike? I mean, we're worried about ships transporting and actually a shutdown in shipping for these refined products.
Our thinking on this is evolving. We've seen things like that happen over the past. I've been in this industry for 44 years. We've seen conflicts in the Middle East. We've seen conflicts in other parts of the world that have created issues for our industry. The industry responds in the short term with rerouting of supplies, and I think the industry's done well in this. The United States has been a big part of the story because as the biggest producer in the world, the biggest exporter now, to meet needs of our allies around the world, the U.S. has stepped up to be part of the answer here. Longer term, I think you will see some changes in the system. We are in discussions with Iraq about potentially entering one or two oil fields there, and part of those discussions would include a framework that would allow the construction of a pipeline that would go north and then move to the Mediterranean Sea and create a pathway for that production to get to market that would not have to go through the route today, which is through the Strait of Hormuz. And so I think you will see changes in the energy system. It's a little early to say what all of them are as we deal with what's still an evolving set of circumstances.
Oh boy, the pipeline through Iraq is interesting.
It sure is. Now I have a clip for you in the Levant War folder. And I think it's the only clip that I pulled, but it is relevant, and I'd like you to play it.
Okay.
Violent clashes in the Middle East and concerns that the pause in the fighting between the U.S. and Iran is over. American and Saudi forces say they launched precision strikes against militias backed by Iran, and Tehran fired ballistic missiles toward American forces. U.S. commanders call it an attempted surprise attack. Charlie D'Agata is in Jordan with the very latest. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Vlad. 4 days of relative calm was shattered overnight with those two dramatic developments, that surprise attack aimed at U.S. forces and new U.S. airstrikes in a joint operation with Saudi Arabia for the first time. This might seem like, well, here we go again, but this is a serious escalation. So video shows attacks on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq in direct retaliation for drone strikes aimed at Saudi Arabian oil facilities. An Iraqi paramilitary coalition says the strikes killed and wounded multiple people and caused damage to buildings and other property. Then there's this surprise ballistic missile attack here in Jordan. Military sources tell us 5 of those missiles were intercepted. Remember, this is where those 3 U.S. soldiers were killed. So this isn't symbolic. This isn't a gesture, U.S. Central Command told us. This was another attempt to kill American troops. So fighting had been on hold to give diplomacy a chance. Now, in the middle of all of this volatility, President Trump met privately with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for the first time since this war began. Netanyahu described it as one of the best conversations, but earlier President Trump slammed the Prime Minister for exaggerating Iran's nuclear threat, saying, quote, "I don't need Bibi to tell me that because he wants me to stay involved." Natalie?
Charlie D'Agata in Jordan, thank you so much.
Okay.
So we've started striking Iraq, militants, obviously, and we have Chevron's CEO talking about a pipeline project, oil fields and a pipeline project out of Iraq through Syria into the Mediterranean Sea.
Syria, of course, the country that just replaced a 40-year dictator with a CIA plant, Al-Shara, that was previously detained at Abu Ghraib, I believe, for 5 years, led a couple of terrorist factions and overthrew the government of Syria.
Yes.
Bashar.
It's a fact.
And now we're bombing militants in Iraq and building a pipeline through it, cutting deals with them. Yeah, I saw the news. It was arrived with not much fanfare that we were cutting deals with Iraq and talking to Iraq as this Iran war was going on. But the pipeline from Iraq to the Mediterranean would say the Strait of Hormuz, we don't need it at all. In fact, we could continue to blockade the Strait of Hormuz and the oil that would flow from it if we get that pipeline built forever, in effect. We could become a permanent thorn in the side of the Iranian oil industry and thus the people that buy Iranian oil, China.
Well, and also just building up infrastructure around Iran to further isolate them and make the region more dependent on Western powers.
At which point, the disorganized majority of the Persians will start to bitch and moan at the organized minority of the IRGC or the Arabs.
Where's our oil money? Where are our oil dollars?
What's going on? Yeah,
Iraq is nice these days.
It's really not. Yeah, I have a feeling that the head in Iraq is going to be carved off and become Kurdistan if certain things come to pass.
In Iraq?
Yeah. It is already Iraqi Kurdistan.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, well, that's where when people say Iraqi Kurdistan, they're talking about that northern tip of the head.
Yeah, but I mean, could Iraq really lose Erbil and live with itself?
I don't know. Did you see how well funded the Iraqi Olympic team was at the Winter Olympics this year? Or how great their team played at the World Cup?
Nope.
They didn't, because there's no Iraqi. I mean, the Iraqi government. What even is it? Name the Iraqi president. Off the top of your head.
I'm not looking. I'm thinking, and I don't have it. But it's not even a matter of a centralized power. I'm talking about the people of Baghdad, the people of Iraq. I mean, the people that fought the U.S. when the U.S. was in Iraq. Do you think they're just going to let the Kurds govern their region? Or are there more Kurds in northern Iraq than I'm aware of?
We're building a pipeline through Iraq. Who do you think
So
that
who
we're going
cares?
to who do you think that we're going to employ to protect that pipeline? And the oil fields.
I don't know if we can trust the Kurds with that kind of thing.
Right, because we've never done that before. They were our people in Syria. They were defending our oil fields in Syria against the Bashar regime. That's who we paid. Do you not remember this?
Yeah, I know. But they just our actions have said that they're not a reliable partner lately.
Because we no longer needed them. Because we installed our guy in Syria. Now we say, hey, guess what, guys? Deal's back
Got
on.
another
We
job
got some
for
oil
you.
fields for you in Iraq.
We need you to come out of retirement. One last job.
There you go. So I'm sure this will not, inevitably end up in another 10-year war or anything. I'm sure everything will be smooth sailing. Everyone will be okay with the pipeline, and no one will attack it.
I wonder where these, and it could be a question that's easily answered, but I'm curious where these Chevron oil fields are in Iraq.
If it's in the north, I'm telling you, we're on the money. Iraq oil fields.
Okay, here's a Motley Fool article. Prediction: Chevron's bold moves in Iraq will reshape the oil stock over the next decade. And defense contractors.
Yeah, I'd imagine that last part's pretty significant. I'm trying to see oil field map. All right, yeah, here we go.
You got this on the live stream so people
Not
can see it?
Yeah, I need to find an image. It was just a suggested search. I'm like, that is what I'm searching for. Yeah, I've got a file for everyone here. The oil fields are the head of Iraq.
Are they?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. We were in Mosul.
Kurdistan. Oh, wait, no. That's... Oh, no. Hold on. Yeah, gas field. Yeah, it's pretty much all the north of Iraq is one big gas field. Gas and oil. The Kurds, ladies and gentlemen, will once again be our hired guns.
Our greatest allies.
They got nothing to do. Think about it. They're like, well, can we attack Iran for you? We're like, yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
But no. Wait. You can't do that,
hold on.
actually.
Stay in Iraq.
Hold on.
We're working on something. Let's get the gas
Don't
guy
lose
in
those
here.
weapons. Yeah, we've already given them the weapons. I mean, I was skeptical, but you're convincing me. I am convincible, even though you probably think I'm not. I can be convinced of things, and you're working on me on this one.
There you go. Yeah, I think I can see the whole strategy playing. We've removed Assad, given us clear access to the Mediterranean. We're cutting deals with Iraq. We've got the Kurds, which are now free agents, to protect the oil fields. And we can continue to block Hormuz and hurt the Chinese.
The Kurds need an NIL deal.
You know, this is actually kind of the problem with the 4-year cycle in America. I swear, if we could get a guy in for 20 years, we could probably see a strategic plan. And I think that is, this is me actively talking about democracy being worse. But a long-term plan and a long-term solution like China. No, I'm not actually suggesting a 20-year president, Cottongen. Calm down. But it is an advantage that China and Russia have over us, I think, is they have dictators.
Well, how about this? Dan and I share power for 20 years. Huh? That's only 10 each.
Yeah, I would love to see you go on prime time with Spain and go, it's not the Jews, and see how long you don't have a people.
We
with
call it the
pitchforks.
Jew circle.
Oh man, that could be good. That could be our next step with the podcast. Dan Bongino did it, and we're on the same lists as he is when it comes to.
He hated it.
That's right. He's podcasting again. That should tell you everything you need to know about power. No, but it's interesting. That's, it's got to be cooked up in neocon heaven. That play right there.
Oh my God!
They must have gotten that off of Lindsey Graham's desk. It's unpublished works
in the bottom drawer.
Yeah. I was drunk when I wrote that. Yeah, that's great. All right, where do you want to go from the Levant War? That's a tough transition, huh?
Well, I was working on a Lindsay joke, and then you prompted me for something else. But I think we should go ahead and thank some people. I think it's a good time. We've been talking. I mean, it's not as long of a first segment as we usually do, but I've got a good, healthy segment on the back end.
Well, hold on. I got a Gaza.
Okay,
update,
I'll
which
hold on. Okay,
that'll fit in nicely right here before we do that. So
nicely.
Here we go. So there's the peace plan that's happening in Gaza, and you can tell that the agreements that Hamas and Israel have come to are very fair and down the middle. So just here's how the plan lays out.
The plan in its current form would see Hamas hand over its heavy weapons, production sites, and a map of the tunnel system that it has built and militarized underneath Gaza. All of this will be transferred to what's called the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, which is a new group of Palestinian technocrats that will eventually rule the enclave. Hamas has said that the weapons will be stored under the committee's watch, which Israel isn't particularly pleased with. Ordinarily, under a full demilitarization process, you might expect the weapons to be destroyed. As for the fighters themselves, they won't be eligible to join law enforcement bodies, such as a new police force that will be run by the committee.
So, all Hamas has to do is get rid of their weapons, give Israel a map of all the tunnels they've built for the past 50 years, and
I'm just imagining the most crude X marks the spot pirate map you can imagine.
I'm just imagining a map of just scribbles back and forth because it doesn't take that long. 50 years is a long time. And then they can't be a part of anything once they retire their weapons. So even Steven. And then Israel will consider leaving their country.
From the very beginning, Hamas has said that it will only disarm once Israel withdraws, and Israel has said that it will only withdraw once Hamas is fully disarmed. Both of them have sort of viewed this as all or nothing. The United States, which is behind the effort, has been pushing for a more piecemeal approach, where these things can happen in tandem, bit by bit. It looks like what's being called for now is for Israel to stop carrying out attacks in Gaza and withdraw to what's called the Yellow Line. The Yellow Line is a boundary that was established when the ceasefire took effect last year, which basically split the Gaza Strip in two, with Hamas controlling a thin piece of territory along the coast and Israel in control of a large buffer zone all around it. But recently, Israel has been moving the line in some places and gradually expanding the area of its control. That means that the population, about 2 million people, has been squeezed into an even smaller piece of land. After that initial withdrawal back to the original Yellow Line, it's not entirely clear how a broader withdrawal will take place. This is all happening at a really sensitive time in Israel. They've got elections coming up in October, and this situation really puts Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a bit of a bind.
Okay. I just thought I'd give an update.
Now, he is behind in the polls.
Yeah, he should probably
lose. And Trump is already talking about him in the past tense. So I don't know if that's indicative of anything, but I think he's pretty much served his purpose.
Yeah, they'll probably elect another guy who will come off, It's not going to be a Zohan Mondami, but it'll be similar in that it'll be another fella that seems like a new vision, a new direction for Israel, and then he just ends up doing the same thing.
Oh, of course.
That's what the people
Since
want.
when on Google Maps is Tel Aviv named Tel Aviv Yaffa? I think you pronounce it Yaffa in Hebrew, Y-A-F-O. I think it's Yaffa.
Tel Aviv.
It's got a hyphenated name now. We're just changing things.
That's what happens. That's what happens with liberalization. You know? All of a sudden you get hyphened last names. I'm not changing it.
Apparently, Jaffa is an ancient city, the ancient city in Tel Aviv. So it's more of a living historically context. Now, see, I can't believe with all the talk of living historically, you didn't point to the Jewish people as an example.
Well, that was implied that he talks about the reason why Israel would want to attack Spain is because the Israelis are people that are living historically, and so are the Spanish people. And thus, the people that live historically have long grievances with other people that live historically and wish to wipe out the other people so they can rule the world. Does that make sense?
Why wouldn't they attack the Italians then?
The Italians? Because what have the Italians ever done except
they're
lose
not Roman?
wars and make espresso? I love the Italians. I am Italian. Apparently, I look Italian. I was unaware of this until I met some new friends, and they're like, "Wow, you're super Italian." I'm like, "Not really." But I asked my wife, I'm like, "Do I look Italian?" She said, "Yes." But the Italians aren't a threat to anyone.
Because they're not Romans.
Right. They nap half the day. It's like the Greeks. Western civilization grew out of Greece. And now today they're fighting for more pensions so they can retire earlier. I don't know. Anyways, let's thank some people.
No, sure.
Millennial Media.
Offensive.
You are riding along in the offensive every Tuesday night. John and I hop on the internet, let you know what's going on. Let you know who's responsible for stuff. And just give you a general rundown of what's going on in the world. We don't have advertisers. We put it out for free. And we say if you get value from it, from this valuable show, you should turn around and send it right back to us. And that's called the value for value model. And so far, it has been working out all right, I would say. High tides and low tides. Gas prices go up, donos go down. I get it. I see it. But there's many ways to give value. It doesn't have to be fiat. It could be Bitcoin as well, or it could be information, articles, emails, or artwork. And that being said, we always like to start off by thanking the person that provided the artwork from the previous week. And this Interrobang came through.
Been on a roll.
Yeah, with this piece. And you know what's funny is we have two main guys that always submit. It's Wolf and it's Interrobang recently. And they both came to the same concept of Anthony Fauci journaling in his little book.
Yes.
And this piece is great because it really, there's something about the way that his feet are up in the air and also the style of it. It's like an old 1950s magazine style.
The overlap of the title and the feet.
And the feet.
The feet. It's the feet.
Yeah. You have a fetish for it. Does it really get you?
I doubt that's what Anthony Fauci's feet actually look like. Prove me wrong, Anthony.
Well, I want to instantly stop that thought bubble in my head right now. So, but job well done in Terabang. Everything about this piece is perfect. I even like the last names as opposed to the full names. It's great. So thank you very much.
And I just because I think it's good form to give someone credit for I just saw this. I just saw Trash Man. I think it's Trash Man. It's his real name, so I don't know. But he sent an email with a whole bunch of material, and I completely missed it this week. I'm sorry. Looks like some good stuff, and I completely overlooked it. Yes, the Chuck 'em Long piece was funny because it was okay. So it's a diary, and you're looking at it from the top, right? You're looking at it. Fauci's on the other side of the table, writing with a pen, and he has written in the diary for you to read upside down, dated March 20th. I did it, Fauci. It's very funny, and it's a good piece, and I think it was a close second. The only thing I really didn't like was the wrinkled hands are kind of a turnoff. They're just kind of repulsive. Just looks like he's about to keel over.
So let me get this straight. You enjoyed Fauci's feet in the last pice of art.
Do you see any wrinkles?
You dislike his hands in this piece of art.
It's the wrinkles, Dan.
I'm just saying, it's mighty peculiar of you. If that wife of yours wasn't so pretty, I'd start to wonder. Okay, so thank you very much for the art. I don't believe we've received any art for tonight's show. So if you got any ideas, feel free to send them at dan@mmo.show and john@mmo.show. Operators are standing by.
Yes. Did you see this mail that we got before we go into donations? It's from Caroline. And she says she's in Denver, of course, relevant to us. She says, "Hi, I work in Denver and help many local companies. I was hoping if I could come by and offer a complimentary cleaning bid. Thank you in advance for your response." What do you think? You think we should get her to come by and offer us a cleaning bid?
Ask her if she's one of those clothing optional places.
You know, it's so funny that we get this solicitation after having an episode where we discuss maid services.
Is it now?
It is.
How do you think these large language models are targeting certain individuals?
They're scanning and reading and listening, and nothing is private. I mean, this is not that this is private or meant to be private, but
we also, I don't know if you got it. I got an ad from Social DB, which is one of those companies that allow it to interject ads into your show.
Oh, that's attractive.
Yeah. Which I'm just hearing casino ads. I don't know why, because I'd sent you a thing and you mentioned some ads that I didn't hear, and I just hear casino ads.
That's so odd.
Yeah, isn't it? I've not ever.
Is it Fountain? Because I was listening on Fountain, and you sent me the Fountain link.
Yeah, I listened on Fountain too.
So I don't think Fountain is inserting ads into our show.
I'm not sure how it works, to be honest with you. They're not inserting ads into our show. They're definitely not doing that. I don't think it's Fountain that's doing it. I think it is an audio file that you download with various ads that might be more targeted towards you. I'm not entirely sure. I do know I've heard that guy's podcast without ads, and then I've waited a couple of days and listened again, and it had ads. So
yeah, but there were different ads for us.
I know that's the weirdest
kicker
part
here.
Yeah, we should experiment. I should send it to a couple other people and see what ads they hear when they listen, and see if it's what I'm hearing. Because all I hear is Crown Coin Casino, and how great spending money on virtual casinos is.
Is it great?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, that's interesting. We do have a short list. I want to encourage you to get that the boost list up pretty quickly, because this list is very short today.
Oh,
yeah.
Yikes.
So we'll go through them. First on the top of the list is Emily the Fed coming through with her $11 monthly recurring donation. Of course, because we call her a Fed, we have to defedify her.
You are not a Fed.
Thank you very much, Emily the Fed. Ethan C. came in through PayPal with his monthly reoccurring PayPal, which we appreciate. Nlog comes in through Venmo and says, Nlog here, OTO.
On the offensive.
And then finally, Praetor Weirdo of the Not So Flatlands comes in through Cash App with $3.33 and says, OTO.
On the offensive.
And that does it for our fiat donations this week. No notes. There were no notes.
Wow.
I know.
Well, I have some boosts here where people sent Bitcoin. You know that thing that was popular back in the day, Bitcoin? Here's some boosts of Bitcoin. Bully Steed sends 3,333 Satoshis and says history doesn't rhyme, but it does repeat itself. Now would be a good time to look at a map. Remain on the offensive. Hashtag MMO, hashtag OTO.
On the offensive.
Noster Gang sends 101 Satoshis and says hashtag me too. And then Eric PP streamed, or is streaming, Satoshis at the moment. And Weirdo streamed 30 for number 229, We the Women.
We the Women. Indeed. Well, very good. Thank you for everyone that did come out for value. You know, what John and I do put on the show, we're both parents and spend a lot of time putting these clips together. So it is appreciated. Those that do appreciate us. Those that don't, you are consider yourself on my naughty list, which I don't check twice. I'm not Santa Claus. I'm just Dan. Anyway, let's get in the second half.
Get it on.
Donate. All right, where do you want to start the second half?
Well, I'm going to take us to CNN, where we're going to listen to RFK and Dana Bash fight.
Oh, boy.
Physically pull one another's hair out and gouge one another's eyes.
I got a Dana Bash clip later. She is a stone cold bitch.
Puta?
Yep.
Well, you're going to get a big old dose of
Are you also trying to find out?
Misfired.
Whoa.
Misfired. My bad.
I mean, there's a tease.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to get a big old dose of Dana here. And we're going to start with a discussion about gain of function. CNN 1.
Let's talk about how to prevent the next pandemic, because there's a lot of litigating and relitigating that I don't think is really helpful to do with regard to COVID. And the question is about so-called gain of function, which for people who aren't entirely clear about it, it is a highly risky research process that includes manipulating a virus to study how it behaves as it evolves. Now, what scientists say is that although it's controversial, it's necessary to prepare for the next pandemic, to get ahead of it, to figure out what these viruses can do. You want to end this gain of function research. Some scientists say, isn't it better just to put better guardrails around it?
People have been trying to put guardrails around it for generations, and it hasn't worked. And clearly, COVID-19 pandemic and many other global pandemics that we have come from gain-of-function research. The RSV epidemic that we have, that is the biggest killer of kids in this country today, came from these kind of experiments. The Lyme disease almost certainly came from this kind of research.
God, he's harder to listen to. He usually has to get warmed up.
Yeah, every time, I listen to him and it's hard, and I clip him and it's more difficult, and then I hear the clips on the show and it's not good.
No.
But he did say some interesting things here. He claimed RSV and Lyme disease, which I had heard the Lyme disease angle, but RSV I hadn't heard being the result of gain of function research. I'm not surprised, but I hadn't heard this. This is just he's just dropping things on CNN.
He said almost certainly Lyme disease was.
For Lyme.
Yeah.
For Lyme. Yeah.
That is interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Okay. Well, she wants to talk about preparedness for the next pandemic, and she's going to continue pushing that point in the preparedness clip. Number 2.
So how do you prepare then? How do you prepare for the next pandemic? I mean, that's literally part of your job now, because experts think it's going to happen within the next 10 years again.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did virtually everything wrong the last time.
So what about now?
The principal thing that we need to do is we need to listen to what's happening to doctors on the ground. There are 15 million frontline physicians around the world. They're mainly now connected through the internet. We can tell on the front lines what's working and what's not. If we had listened to those doctors during the COVID pandemic, we would have saved potentially millions of lives. There were therapeutics out there that were working. There were doctors that were having no deaths from COVID and treating, in some cases, thousands of patients. And we weren't listening to them. Instead, we were doing the opposite. We were shutting them down. And then, Dana, the other thing that I would say is that we need to protect our constitutional rights. That is the primary obligation of our country.
Mean?
That means your network was saying horse goo. They were shouting horse goo and demonizing these doctors.
I love this because this is something you might, I mean, it even sounds like a guy you might hear call into your local radio station in the midst of a pandemic and say, our main concern should be constitutional rights, which, correct, yes, it should be, especially something like COVID, okay? You can't be an ideologue and say, no matter what's happening, even if 90% death rate, you have to be concerned about constitutional rights. Constitution's no good if everybody's dead, but that wasn't the case with COVID. Everybody knew that wasn't the case.
Right.
So he comes in with this completely off the wall and unexpected concern because nobody talks about the Constitution. People, like I said, it's something you'd expect to hear some guy sitting at home calling the midday political call-in show and saying, "Oh, I gotta be concerned about the Constitution," and he's on CNN saying, "Hey, you're asking about preparedness for a pandemic. We're not concerned about worrying ourselves to death over a pandemic. We're concerned about keeping the government from infringing on constitutional rights if it happens again." And the response here is perfect. What does that mean?
Is he going to tell her?
What is this Constitution?
Personal rights. Is he going to tell her in this next clip?
Number 3 is called Rights Continued.
Perfect.
Well, during COVID, we completely dismantled our constitutional rights. We began censoring people in violation of the First Amendment.
But you're saying what not to do. I'm asking what to do. But I want to talk about.
That's something to do. That is the number one priority. We protect the Constitution. The Constitution was written.
Forgive me, but you're talking about rights, and I'm asking about a potential public health crisis that is coming. But I do want to
And one of the mistakes we made in the last time was suppressing those rights so people weren't being heard. The doctors who were saying you're doing it wrong were being marginalized and vilified.
Yeah,
and
because again, I really want to move on. But
sure,
you were saying you were
yes, I do. Part of the problem.
No, I wasn't part of the problem.
There was absolute press malpractice. You weren't allowing your
Mr.
job,
Secretary,
your job
is
a fierce skepticism toward authority. And you weren't doing that. You were beating up on people who were dissenting.
No. Okay. Are you want to sit here and attack me, or do you want to have conversations about public health? I'm not attacking you. I'm asking questions about how to prevent the next pandemic.
Question and I'll tell you.
That's what I'm trying to do. But I also don't want to use this interview to allow you to say things that aren't entirely true. You're talking about therapeutics, fine. It is also factually true that the COVID vaccine worked. The COVID vaccine prevented deaths. There is data upon data upon data.
Okay, so we're changing the topic rapidly.
Yep.
Because rights, with all due respect, you're talking about rights. We're talking about a health emergency, And you're talking about rights? I mean, this is one of the most telling pieces of discussion that could ever be put to print.
Well, she knew he got him on that point. He's like, we got to move on. That's always the, well, we need to get on to the next topic. You know, whatever.
But the way Dana Bash thinks about this, and she thinks this is completely normal, is the way a lot of people in our democracy think about this. And you saw them thinking about this in real time during COVID. And the thinking is, if there's a 2% chance that I might die, you're crazy for considering rights.
Screw your freedom.
Screw your freedom. Exactly. Arnold Schwarzenegger said it best. Okay. COVID vax kids. She left us off with data upon data upon data, stacks of data. There's data everywhere. I'm in data up to my ears. So this is going to be a conversation about the COVID vaccine, specifically for kids. Number 4.
Let's talk about the measles, please, because this is something that is happening as we speak. The cases in the U.S.
vaccine protected children.
I think that what I have talked to scientists and doctors
You've talked
about.
to scientists. Can you show me one study?
Yes, I can.
That shows that
I can.
Children were protected by the COVID vaccine.
I can tell you that
that vaccine did more good than harm to children. Can you show me one study that shows that?
I can tell you that when it comes to the vaccine, there have been studies that show that because of vaccine disinformation, there could have been 100 to 200,000 lives in the U.S. saved. But because people didn't get the vaccine, that's why. I'm not saying that it entirely.
You are saying nonsense. You are saying something that you cannot show me a single study.
I am not saying nonsense.
You are talking what somebody told you.
Excuse me.
And you cite me the study. What study?
No, what studies are you talking about? You're talking about studies that actually don't exist. I want to talk about.
Cite me the study that you're talking about.
I am not here to defend.
Studies. Cite me the study.
This is not productive. I am not here to defend all of the.
You're talking nonsense. You're making assertions you can't support, and then when I call you on them, you're telling me that I'm arguing.
Okay.
With
Do you want to talk about assertions that you can't support? I'll get there in a second. Let me just say, for the record, that I am not saying that the entire way that the COVID reaction was accurate. It was a scary time, and people made mistakes. Absolutely.
You were scaring people.
Why are you saying that?
Because that was the job of CNN.
Okay.
Was to put the chyrons up about how many people are dying.
We were trying to we were listening to the leaders in this country, including the president, who had a daily press conference explaining what was going on and trying to listen.
Were you listening?
I want to talk to measles.
Actually, were you reading the science yourself?
The measles cases in the U.S. just reached a 35-year high.
I think this is fantastic.
I think it's great too.
Maybe I'm just, entertained. Maybe it's just it's macabre of me to be entertained by this.
No, it's RFK saying what everyone was saying.
I can just picture them in their kitchen. They've both had a long day at work. They're having a nice conversation, and it turns to politics. And then this ensues. That last clip is just had in American kitchens around the country.
Right. Dana Bash, what's interesting is,
it was a scary time.
Right. What's funny, though, is she separates herself as an individual conveniently from CNN at times. Like, I did this, and it's just really funny because all day they'll group people in with each other. Like CNN does that. They group people in with ideologies and say, you're a part of this. And then when it's turned around on them, it's like, I personally did that. Just like funny stuff. I love it.
Okay, so let's finally talk about measles and autism, and let's probe the link.
Probing.
Can I ask you, the Wall Street Journal reported that the president is pressuring you to conduct studies probing the link between vaccines and autism. Is that true?
Did you say probing the link?
I'm just quoting the Wall Street Journal, that the president wants you to go further to probe the link between autism and vaccines.
He certainly does.
Okay. Now, have you talked to him about medical research that have studied this for 25 years and found no link between autism and vaccines? And just this is my question here, because I don't want to litigate that. My question is, why not, because you are HHS secretary now, why not study what could cause autism, which scientists do believe starts with fetal brain development? Why not do some studies on that, whether you're an environmental lawyer, whether there are environmental factors that go into contributing to a predisposed genetic situation?
Well, let me say this first. We're doing all those things, and that's one of the ways that we found Tylenol. There's 73 studies out there and linked Tylenol exposure during later pregnancy and during the perinatal period to autism onset.
Okay. Now, we're going to continue this. I just thought probing the link was the fact that he asks, did you say probe the link? Anyway, so let's, and it's funny, Dana, I get what her job is, but it's so funny to me that she's like, hey, Mr. HHS Secretary, your president wants you to probe the link. Have you talked to him about the narrative that I hear in my milieu about how it's the most studied thing ever and there's no evidence for what he wants you to do? Have you talked to him about that? Surely you know about this. Surely everyone knows about it. Everybody knows that it's studied and it's the science is settled. Surely everybody knows. So have you talked to him about that? I find this very funny that's her angle here. So they're going to continue pulling this thread in studied number 6.
You are wrong when you say that this issue has been studied. It has been studied, and you're rolling your eyes, Dana. But
I am, because I don't want to have you use our air to say this. There have been more than 40 studies involving 5.6 million people to conclude there is no link between vaccines and autism. This is the head of the Committee of Infectious Diseases for the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Now let me tell you what the Institute of Medicine says, which is the National Academy of Sciences, which is the ultimate arbiter on vaccine safety, and which it does not have an interest in this debate. It says that none of the 8 vaccines that are administered during the first 6 months of life have ever been studied for a relationship to autism. It found 2 studies, one on the DTP vaccine that showed that it does cause autism, and one on the hepatitis B vaccine that again suggests that it does cause autism. The Institute of Medicine dismissed those 2 studies because they were based on CDC's database. The studies that you're referring to are all for one vaccine, the MMR vaccine, or one ingredient, thimerosal.
So you are actually looking at, you're starting new studies to try to link autism, but you're also telling me...
I'm not trying to link autism to anything.
She tries to imply that he's trying to prove a point he made, as opposed to doing the scientific method and seeing what the outcome is of vaccines. She's trying to cast shade on any sort of research he's doing, effectively.
Right. She's framing.
Yeah.
Framing
That's what
his efforts. Yes. Okay. So she's going to present another suggestion to the HHS secretary, and this one has to do with genes.
Are you also trying to find out how it interacts with people's DNA, what's predisposed to have an autistic child? Are you doing both?
Yeah, but Dana, you probably don't understand this because you're not a scientist. But genes
you're not
don't
either.
cause Genes don't cause epidemics.
I understand. Genes,
They can provide a
epidemics.
vulnerability.
A gene provides
environmental
exposure. That's what I'm asking. Are you studying the environmental
We're looking
exposure?
at all the different environmental exposures, but your statement, you have been fooled. Your statement that this has been studied is not true. It's categorically
It is
not
considered.
true. Not for any of the studies.
It is considered.
Considered
decided
by who?
By every scientist who has studied this.
That is not true. I can give you
true.
hundreds of scientists who have looked at this.
So on
and
the
say,
one
why
hand,
is
you
it?
are. Do you understand
It's
why
the
people aren't
National
getting?
Academy of Sciences. What greater authority
Do you
have
understand
than
why
that?
people are not getting measles vaccines? Because they're hearing you say that it could cause.
You're trying
autism.
to change the subject.
I'm not. It's very much
Yeah, you are.
related.
Show me one of the studies that's been done on the first 8 the vaccines during the first 6 months of life. You will not find them. The National Academy of Sciences.
So if that's the case, then why are
exist.
you telling people to get the measles vaccine?
Because that is one of the vaccines
so
that has been
ignorant.
studied.
Okay.
It's the only one that has been studied.
Do you want people to get the MMR vaccine?
Yeah, I said that already.
Okay.
I love it. He's got her flustered.
Yeah, he does. And he's talking about the first 8, and then she brings up a point of, well, why are you telling people to get the MMR if you want the first 8 studied? Well, obviously, MMR is not one of the first 8. But I will say this, having done quite a bit of reading on this myself, not a scientist, or a CNN commentator, but the anecdotal evidence of autism developing after MMR is the highest amount of anecdotal evidence of any of the vaccines, which is interesting. It's a really interesting thing to me because RFK Jr. is full bore. MMR is safe. But MMR has the highest level of anecdotal evidence, which I know a lot of people dismiss out of hand, but if 10 people come back from across a bridge and tell me, hey, there's a bear over there, I'm not going to dismiss that out of hand just because it's anecdotal. And I know it's a crude analogy, but I'm not going to dismiss anecdotal evidence just out of hand because it's anecdotal. And, my rational scientific morals would be compromised. But the point is that the anecdotal evidence for autism developing after MMR is by far greatest on MMR than the other vaccines. So it's interesting to me that he does push MMR wholeheartedly, but it is what it is. So the last, to the word you used, she's flustered, and that's the last clip in this segment. Flustered number 8.
So
I know you're flustered now, and it is.
I'm not flustered at all.
Because
I am
people have
frustrated.
not been honest.
The
with
reason
you.
I'm frustrated is because you are the HHS secretary, and you are talking about things that lead to vaccine hesitancy in this country, and it is something that causes problems for people when there is.
This is the definition. What's coming up is the definition of a great question. She doesn't say great question. She should, but this is a great question.
Okay.
For people
when
there is not anything.
Let me ask you something. Do you see your job as ending vaccine hesitancy, or do you see your job as telling the truth to the American people?
I see my job as telling the truth, and the truth is that there is study after study after study. It's one of the most studied things out there in science.
You're repeating
and it
it
is
like a parrot. You're repeating it like a parrot. I've actually read this.
So I would like to pause there. So I've heard news anchors speak with authority on guns and get stuff completely wrong before. And when she goes, there is study after study after study, that is regurgitation. She doesn't know this. She's just regurgitating stuff that
she doesn't know anything.
Right.
Other than her. I mean, she doesn't know any. She knows some things, but nothing to do with this conversation.
Right. But when something as simple as what a semi-automatic weapon is, and they can't even understand that concept, and they speak with authority to the nation and get it absolutely wrong on very complex topics like this. We should
not more topically to our show, and I think to the recent cultural narratives. There is study after study after study that immigrants actually don't cause a majority of the crime, and they contribute to the economy. They make number go up. That's where I've seen it most recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is it's what they do for a living.
Right.
They get to lean on quote unquote experts and pretend they know things. We just get to pretend we know things with nobody backing us up.
Well, here's the thing: is they're losing control of the information flow, and they're realizing it.
Ned has a good one. He had a stockpile of 100 rounds of ammo.
That's right. It's usually how you buy ammo.
Oh my gosh! He could have killed 100 people.
Correct. If he would have only held his gun the right way.
So I've actually read the science. Let's come back here and debate the science.
I'm not debating this with you.
Of course you won't.
No, because I'm not
all
debating.
You know how to do is repeat things that people told you and say, trust the experts. That's what you did during COVID. Now we know that Anthony Fauci, who was the expert, was lying about everything, about masks, about social distancing, about natural immunity, about the transmission from the vaccine, about the source of COVID. He was lying, and you were punishing people for not trusting the experts. And now you're rolling out the experts again to talk about something that you have no personal knowledge of.
Okay, well, guess what? That is my job, to talk to people.
Your job is to tell the truth to the American public.
Yes, and my job is to get as much information as I can.
And
what we were doing,
skepticism.
What we were doing in COVID, and still, with regard to these vaccines, is getting the best information, the best science that we can, and putting it out there. And sir, what you are doing is causing information to be out there that is not accurate.
Who was lying to you?
That point is a muddled point that you might miss just watching this live or watching the YouTube video. But she says we're getting the best information we can and putting it out. And his counterpoint is the information you were getting was from people lying to you.
Right.
And to play on that, he says, you're doing the same thing. You're taking these experts, you're walking these experts out and saying, this is what the experts say, when in COVID they were lying to you, but now they're doing the same thing with vaccine research and adverse effects research. And she says, yeah, guess what? That's my job.
Yeah, which, is like, all right, that's not a counterpoint. That's actually proving his point a little bit. But I just remember the memes of, oh, you don't believe in science, and the doctors that were posting selfies on Facebook or whatever we were using back in 2020 with a needle in their arm and saying, I'm getting this because I know it's safe because I believe in science. And I remember all of that. I believe in science. I believe in science this. And then the Fauci thing comes out, and I mean, I don't know if you've talked to anybody that's on the other side of the aisle, but no one even paid any mind to it.
No. It was a non-event.
No, it's because thank you. It's pretty much everyone on the right saying, aha, we told you so. And the left is like, what? What's happening?
Who?
That was 5 years ago. Get over it. It's just like, no. You were talking about how we should die. You were celebrating our deaths if we were unvaccinated. That's insane.
But see, this is, okay, but this goes right back to the discussion of your horizon, your event horizon. How far ahead are you looking? And the people who were wishing for the death of the unvaccinated were never going to remember or relive that past a year. Tops a year. It was an emotional thing to say. It was an accepted thing to say.
Yeah.
And it was inflammatory. Perfect. The three elements of the NPC dialogue. Inflammatory, appropriate, or accepted. And what was the first one?
Emotional.
Emotional, yes. See, I didn't know because I just came up with that off the top of my head. I think it checks out, though. Emotional, accepted.
I don't remember.
What would be a better third? There's a better third way to say that. I'll work on it. I'll draw a triangle and work on it.
Provocative.
Yeah, inflammatory. Yeah, inflammatory is probably better than... Well, provocative might be better. They're the same thing. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, but their event horizon is not even a year. It's the length of their social media feed.
Right.
So, I mean, you can still be upset about it because you have a longer event horizon, both backward and forward looking, which it works both ways. You know, if you can only see 5 miles in front of you because of the fog, that means you can only see 5 miles behind you too. So it works the same way on the event timeline.
You raise a good point, because these same people were also posting black squares on Instagram. Like, that'll help.
Yes.
That'll help. This will help the cause. Everyone now knows.
Emotional, accepted, provocative.
I'm a good guy. I'm one of the good ones. This will really help people. All right. That was fun. I'm glad you brought that. I had heard about it. I heard clips from it, but I didn't bring it.
Well, I did. So there you go.
I appreciate it. Let's see what else we got in here.
Well, I have, and not for the sake of not for the sake of the DSA, but for the sake of seeing the Mr. Jekyll, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of Dana Bash. I have her interviewing a Democrat Socialist of America candidate in Wisconsin.
Oh, those are the DSA clips I have. Okay, which one?
Let's just do distancing.
Perfect.
Now, keep in mind the way she acted with RFK.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
You have been distancing yourself from the National Democratic Socialist Platform. I heard you in an interview this morning doing that most recently. In that interview on Fox, you said you don't support, for example, abolishing the Senate, abolishing the Defense Department, abolishing the Supreme Court, which are all part of the platform. But there are some bread and butter issues that I want to ask you about that are also in the DSA platform. And it's under a headline, "A Day Without Capitalism." And I'm going to read it. Speaking of bills, you don't really have them anymore. You have no debt. You don't have health insurance. You don't pay a mortgage or have a landlord. Food, education, energy, medicine, and transportation aren't for-profit businesses. They are common goods and utilities. Would these be your goals if you were governor of Wisconsin?
I was a small business owner for over 7 years, and I believe in organizing worker power and unions as well. And I think it's important to recognize the practical and sensible solutions that we need right now. And that's permanent affordability. That's ensuring that we've got healthy school meals in our school, that we're raising the minimum wage, that we ensure paid leave, and that everyone has access to fair, cheaper healthcare across our state. And we're building affordable housing. Folks are excited when I talk about a public bank that allows people to actually build more affordable housing, create good union construction jobs, and make sure that our small businesses can thrive.
Yeah, and I that makes perfect sense.
Now, she doesn't answer the question.
No.
This is the thing about these people, and when I mean these people, I mean half Koreans. No, no. When I say these people, I mean these like kind of leftist socialists. they don't have any beliefs. What they have are these buzzwords and ideas, and they have no way or plan on how to implement them. And so when they say these outlandish shit and then it gets brought up and put in their face again, they can't answer it yes or no because they don't know, because they have no moral stance on the issue.
No, so they regurgitate something a little more moderate.
Yeah. Oh, this will be accepted. And that's, I mean, Fox News platform, this lady, CNN platform, there's a, like it or not, they're having her on is giving her exposure, even if it is terrible exposure. And I think that CNN is actually doing a job of saying these people are bad. This is a branch of the Democratic Party that we don't want. We don't want these people. I think that's what CNN is trying to do. It's saying these people are crazy. We want the mainstream Democrats that feed us all of our information. We want that pipeline to continue. But I see you've got more. You've got mine, I think, in here too. I've got a third one you don't have, which is cool.
Oh, okay. Well, this next one is framing, and we want to pay attention to how Dana helps her frame this.
But you said this morning that you pay dues to the Democratic Socialist Party, and what they are talking about, at least in part of their platform, is, I mean, it sounds a little bit utopian. I don't know. It depends where your point of view is, that food, education, energy, medicine, transportation would be common goods and utilities. Is that your ultimate goal? I understand the political realities of being in a purple state, but if you could, would those be the kinds of policies you would be able to implement?
Wait a second. Wait. I wonder if Dana would think it's utopian to say a world where no one needs a vaccine.
Right, where doctors are effectively bus drivers.
Posture consultants is what we call them, Dan.
It's very good. Yeah, the political realities of a purple state. Dana's saying, all right, if Republicans weren't in Wisconsin, what would you do? It's how she's asking the question, expecting that she's going to say, oh yeah, I definitely socialize everything.
Oh, by the way, I missed a good one that I had thought about the other day. We should really, in the interest of inclusion, I think we should start referring to migrants as aspiring stakeholders.
Okay, we'll put it on an advisement.
I think that's a good one. I think aspiring stakeholders. Yes. Anyway, I don't mean to derail. Let's continue.
Aspiring stakeholders kind of sounds like a bisexual guy that's afraid of commitment. You know what I mean? Never.
My Hope Chapter, DSA Madison, we have focused so much on making sure that we're helping to meet community needs. And we didn't actually pursue the national DSA endorsement. And as I've mentioned, there aren't things that I completely agree with right now. And I want to focus on building permanent affordability for all Wisconsinites, where people feel like this is a state they belong to. And, being born and raised in my home state.
Permanent affordability means nothing.
And recognizing that this is a place where I can open a business, where I can be a single mom and still feel very cared for in the community. But this isn't the reality.
What does that mean? Nothing.
For too many people across Wisconsin. And so I think that for us, making sure that we're putting working class people first is the type of government we want to build, a government that is a force of good.
Yes, a force of good. Now,
it's all just adjective bullshit. There's nothing in that.
The thing that Dana asks RFK, what does that mean, is when he says, we need to protect your rights. But she doesn't ask, what does perpetual affordability, or what was another one? She doesn't ask what any of this means.
No, because, perennial affordability or sustainable, I can't remember what the term she used, but it doesn't mean anything. There's no concepts or values or anything behind it.
We're going to make government a perpetual affordability machine. You've heard of perpetual energy.
Perpetual
Get ready
affordability.
for perpetual affordability.
Did you know, Dana? Did you know that there's a machine in Washington that just prints money? If it just
Affordability.
printed more
It just
money for
prints
people,
affordability.
everyone would have so much money if we just printed more money.
Okay, my next one, and we don't really have to play this one. We can go to yours, but this next one is about police and safety, and it's just more of nothing.
Yeah.
You posted a lot about the police back in 2020 and 2021. You wrote, I support defunding the police as a first step towards abolishing the police, and that reform can't be an option. I know you say that a governor cannot defund the police and that you do not want to, quote, govern by slogan. I just want to be clear. Does this mean...
Well, that's ironic because her whole entire thing has been frickin' slogans and buzzwords. Jesus. All right. I was muted. I was taking a bite of my dinner. And I heard that. I go, wait, hold the horse.
I know you say that a governor cannot defund the police and that you do not want to, quote, govern by slogan. I just want to be clear. Does this mean that you no longer believe in the goal of defunding and ultimately?
You held the horse, and I don't want to beat it to death, but when anybody says they don't want to govern by slogan, that's exactly what they have in mind, is to govern by slogan.
The whole interview slogans.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's parrot populism.
I like that.
Wouldn't things be nice? Wouldn't things be nice?
Wouldn't it be great if you could buy a yacht?
Imagine all the people.
Wouldn't it be great if you could just dick around on the couch all day and not have to worry about paying bills? Well, vote for me, and we'll give you free government-subsidized kimchi.
In the goal of defunding and ultimately abolishing the police that you posted about 5 years ago?
I believe that safety is a human right, that I'm going to be a...
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Governor that is more serious about public safety than any other governor. And I'm willing to work with community organizers, faith leaders, local governments where many of our public safety systems are funded. And if anyone believes in defunding the police, it's been Robin Vos and the Republicans in the state legislature who have ruled the legislature for over 16 years and have no qualms around defunding our local governments, where these are folks who provide some of the most essential services in preventing violence and making sure that we're getting guns off of our street. And so to be serious about public safety, I'm most interested in making sure that we are being tough on the causes if we're going to be tough on crime, and make sure that we build community safety all across the state.
Did your opinion change then on defunding the police?
That I think that people can evolve, that I am going to be a...
The evolve thing is a theme that she uses in a lot of her interviews. And it is the progressive ideology of I've evolved, right?
God, Dana's really putting up a fight here.
Yeah, for real. I've evolved. I've become a better person. And that's the progressive mindset of I'm no longer stuck in those beliefs of yesterday.
Yes, that's exactly what that means.
Yeah.
The what is the corporate speak for this? Our thinking is evolving.
Yeah. It's like when you write an asset report after there was a bad asset. Like we invested in this thing and then it went to shit. Well,
about the time it went bad, our thinking evolved.
Right. Unspecified forces have changed the projection of our investment.
Yes.
Sensible and practical government and governor that is going to make sure that public safety is a priority and
so
actually
you evolved on that.
Serious safety. I think that what my values are where some of my beliefs are as well. But where my values are is in, making sure that public safety is for everyone, that everyone has access to it. And I think that.
Okay, I hate to do this because you've been doing it. What does it mean to have access to public safety?
That's why I paused. That's why I paused.
Like if if you want public safety tonight, you can have it. But if you're feeling a little dangerous, you don't have to have it.
What does access to public safety mean? It means nothing.
Well, in effect, I mean, to be serious about it, what it means is you have no-go zones in your city, and if you don't want access to public safety, you can go there. But if you want access to public safety, you know where the police patrol so that they don't get murdered, and you can go there and have public safety. That's access to public safety.
Access to public safety, to me, would imply everyone has a concealed carry weapon, and that would potentially be a compelling point if she hadn't previously said getting guns off the street.
Well, I think of access to public safety. Do you remember your time in college where it was chic to put up the blue light rape poles on campus?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Help, I'm being raped.
That's access to safety. Well, we didn't stop it, but she had access to safety.
She pressed the button. No one was working that night, but...
right. Job well done.
Right.
What I've believed in the past, like that can evolve, but I still know that I cannot defund police as governor. And what I want to do is making sure that we're fully funding and investing in the community programs that we know actually work, that data shows builds community safety. And again, the belief that I have, the values that I hold, is that everyone has a right to feel safe and be safe.
Everyone has a right.
No. It's
safe.
fine. You can feel safe. Yeah, I know. I know. You're bleeding. I know. But do you feel safe? You have a right to feel safe, and that's what matters,
sir. Yes, I don't feel safe. That can be used to justify so many terrible things. Well, we had to take his guns away. She didn't feel safe. You know what I mean? I swear to God, if I said I don't feel safe in downtown Minnesota or downtown Milwaukee, there's a way that you could angle that where that would cause a visceral reaction if you said you didn't feel safe in a certain situation.
Right.
So, all buzzwords. Now a title is Downtown Minnesota. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Cotton Gin. All right, here's another one. This is with Caitlin Collins. Old tranny Kloss over there.
Okay, so be honest.
I don't
what
think
did you
she looks
think
like
about the joke?
I can't unsee it now. Like they look very similar.
I know it's the FedEx logo.
Kinda, yeah. Now
once you see
arrow.
the arrow, get it? You can't unsee it.
Right. It was kind of odd that he called her a good-looking girl and then compared her to a tranny.
Well, I mean, for Pride Month, we did play the compilation of Trump talking about all these handsome men.
Oh,
so.
That's right. That's true. Oh, my God. What a guy. All right.
Look at those muscles.
So here she is with Caitlin Collins talking about Thanksgiving. And believe it or not, some people in this world have a problem with Thanksgiving. I think we could agree, as a show at least, I think 90% of the country would agree that people that don't like Thanksgiving should be executed. But here, have a listen.
One thing that they brought up as well was a post from you in 2021 where you said Americans should cancel Thanksgiving, should have done this in 1621. The post has been deleted. Republicans have been highlighting it. Do you still believe that Thanksgiving should be canceled?
I'm a chef, and one of the first meals that I made that was for the community when I was 16 was a Thanksgiving meal. I always think my hospitality background in owning a restaurant for 7-8 years, that bringing folks around the table to share conversation and build community is always a good thing. But Thanksgiving is also a time that's incredibly painful for many people in our communities. And so...
Who is that painful for?
The ones who don't have a right to feel safe.
Who is saying, "Oh, it's Thanksgiving"? This is the worst thing.
It's a profound time of mourning for indigenous communities. It's
Why?
like the Super Bowl for the Cowboys.
I mean, I thought of the Native American angle, but the fun story that I was sold as a kid was that everyone sat at the table together. The Pilgrims.
Earlier we pointed out that they have no event horizon forward or backward. I love that she suggests Thanksgiving should have been canceled in the 17th century when it wasn't instituted as a holiday until 1863.
Yeah, well after the Civil War.
Well,
no. Sort of after the Civil War, right?
No.
When did the Civil War happen? 1880?
No.
Hold on.
It was 61 to 65. And Lincoln did that in 63. It was a wartime measure to increase morale.
That's it. Well, I knew it was around the Civil War. You got me all mixed up. Now I sound like an idiot. But yes, it happened during the Civil War. John C. Dvorak, the late John C. Dvorak, oftentimes said it was a tactic that Lincoln used to get the troops home from war so they could vote for him.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. That's why it's in my head. I miss that man. Anyways, we'll continue.
I think I wanted to make sure that people understood that there are multiple views, but views can evolve. And the position that I'm running
they can evolve
for right now, and I think my background as a chef will actually help me become a better governor that's able to bring more people to the table.
Francesca Hong, thank you for joining us. We hope to have you back on, depending on how things go next week in your primary.
Even Kenneth Collins was like, "Yeah, we'll have you back on if you win." I hope to God that's not the case. I mean, come on. I just can't believe that.
It's so bad.
CNN had her on twice in the same week. Fox News had her on. Like, why are they platforming these people? These people should be a joke.
I think they're platforming them for the same reason. Try to motivate the base of each party.
Yeah.
And
get a load of this bitch. I don't get it. I don't get how she could be a serious contender. She's like one of 4 people that's being seriously considered to run a state. She can't answer a single question. She just got buzzwords. Now I'm getting yelled at for shouting via text by my wife.
Well, maybe you should I don't know, maybe read some Stoics or something.
Maybe I should. Well, last week we spoke about the 30% off grocery stores in New York. Mm-hmm. They did another press conference this week. And
oh, yeah, this is good. You're going to do the thing, aren't you?
Oh, I'm going to do the thing. And
we Facebook is going to love it.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Question about the essential basket of goods. You said they're going to be 30% cheaper than they would be at the grocery store down the street, or even if there's one not down the street, if it's a food desert. How are you going to keep people from taking advantage of that, that deal, basically? And is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket?
So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass it over to our EDC head, Jeannie Pack, to add some additional details.
Who?
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be a sort of a library card-esque thing, and also we manage who's buying, and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. So we are mindful of that, and so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to ensure that that does not happen.
Come on.
Now, wait a minute. Did you specifically predict they would institute IDs?
Yeah, I said buying limits, and I said identification. So the people that think racist, they think it's racist if you require an ID to vote, because it disproportionately affects black people, because evidently they don't have IDs. Now, to help these poor people with these cheaper groceries, you got to show your ID. To prove that you're a New Yorker.
And the boomers go wild.
I know. It was a Fox News spike the ball clip all day.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But still, it was that was the easiest call of all. It's the easiest call I've ever made. Do you have any more, or should we end on that?
No, I'm done. I'm so done.
I got some clips in reserve for next week, but I'm ready to get out of here. I think. Oh, man. John, you tweeted that you believe every Native American should be given a brand new Chevy Tahoe and a bag of candy corn. Do you still stand by that?
My thinking has evolved on the subject.
2 bags of candy corn it is. $2.30's a hot one. Yes, indeed. We'll be back next Tuesday, God willing. Hey, I'm actually going to see you.
Yes, I will see you in a few days. We got early flights. Don't miss them.
That's right. Got to clear up some specifics on that.
Oh, do we? Yeah, well, you owe me money.
I do owe you money. I'll talk to you after the show. It's really boring stuff that I need to ask about.
Yeah. Okay. I'm bringing 2 pair of underwear.
Nice. You know, it's really kind of in the vein of what I was talking about. Sort of, in a weird way. I just want to leave the listeners in suspense. Don't make them wonder what we're talking. It's called Mystique of the Mind.
And it's a theater of the mind, Dan. It's nothing that you haven't been invited to. Don't worry. Just something we were invited to.
Mystique.
That didn't play out the way I wanted it to.
Mystique.
We did not invite you to something. Don't worry.
It's not our thing.
We're growing the community. Our thinking is evolving.
Mystique of the mind is a thing.
Theater of the mind.
Well, theater of the mind, but mystique of the mind. The great mystique. Anyways, put another X for a slaughtered saying on the ceiling for Dan. Well, from St. Louis, Missouri, I have been Dan Uring.
And from America's South Coast, where we live in a historical context, all right? I'm John G. Dew.
And we'll be back next week doing similar stuff, unless our thinking evolves, and then who knows? We just wanted everyone to have access to public safety. MMO, out. Patina of the mind. See you next Tuesday. That was It was fun. I like that. Straight up.
I think we neglect sometimes how fun it is to just clown on the media.
Yeah. Well, it's we were kind of I felt forced to do it a little bit this week because literally nothing had changed.
Yeah, but
there were no new stories.
We're decent at clowning on the media, so when we need to, we can.
I don't disagree with you. It's like, oh my God, when are we going to get some new stuff? I don't care about
somebody blow something up.
I know. Someone attack somebody. We need a new war or something. Somebody's
don't pass the die. All right, let's produce this thing.
Okay. I will do the title list. I could type it. What did I do? Oh, I added a space before. Thank you. All right. Long list here tonight. You ready? Get a listen.
Mm-hmm.
The Serbians of South Chicago.
Okay.
When I think of Africa, homogeneous blob of humanity. Jew package. Hijo de puta. Carl Tuckerson.
That's an early front runner.
Yeah. Our greatest allies. Jew circle. Living historically. Nothing is private. Probe the link. Probing the link. Posture consultants. Adjective bullshit. Perpetual affordability. Governed by slogan. I'm evolved. Parroting progressives. Downtown Minnesota, and tranny clause.
I have one to add. Dose of Dana.
A dose of Dana. She's just got RBF. Like, you would not, you believe it because you see it, but
she's got a horse face. You've heard of Mousy.
Yeah. But the way she just looks when somebody else is talking, just you can tell she's not a pleasant person when she's upset. I'd hate to be a little Mexican woman cleaning her toilets.
I like Carl Tuckerson.
Carl Tuckerson.
What is his real name? What is it?
Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson. Carl Tuckerson.
Carl Tuckerson.
It's
Dude,
just funnier the more you think about it.
I said it and I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is not Carl Tuckerson. Tucker Carl.
I think we go with Carl Tuckerson.
Okay, Carl Tuckerson it is.
And then I think the best ISO is going to be right there at the end, and I forget what it was. It may have been ISO'd. I'm going to look.
When did the Civil War happen? Thank you for that, Cotton Gin. It's funny because I know when these events happened, but when you're on a show and when I say, oh, it happened well after the Civil War, you're like, no. And I'm like, okay.
I think I'm thinking of, oh my God, what a guy from you.
Oh my God, what a guy. Let's see. Oh my God, what a guy.
I'm laughing over it. Was I laughing over it? Yeah. I was listening to it at the same time. All these handsome men.
Oh, so. That's right. That's true. Oh my God, what a guy. A guy. I don't think so. Oh my God, what a guy. Oh yeah, there's a little bit. Well, vote for me, and we'll give you free government subsidized kimchi.
Give in the.
Oh, that'd be good. I don't know if we're going to get any art. I didn't see Wolf or Interrobang pop in tonight. Ooh-ba-doo-ba-doo. I thought we had some, a lot of ISOs in here.
death rate, you have to be concerned about constitutional rights. Constitution's no good if everybody's dead. But okay.
That one? You like that?
Constitution's no good if everybody's dead.
Is massacring. And it's the same reason probably that people don't know about it. A lot of what happened.
Yahoo, for the first time since this war began.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So we'll go through them.
Tense. So I don't striking Iraq.